Hello, hello, happy Friday. Welcome to our Friday Witchy Hangout. We do this every single Friday where we mix our energies together, we ask a juicy question of the universe, and we usually have a pretty good time doing it. You guys have been so sweet in the comments today, and I just wanted to say that I've been reading all of them. And Siri, it was so funny that you were like, I love when you break out into song in the middle of a reading, because I was singing like a lot before we went live here today, but it was kind of absentmindedly. I didn't realize I was doing it. And then I was like, when I realized, I was like, oh, was I being annoying? And Alex was like, no, you're not bothering anybody. And then I saw your comment and it was just hilarious, like the timing of everything. So, hello. So today we are doing a lovely juicy reading on what epiphany do you need to have, or what realization in order for you to evolve, turn some kind of major corner in your soul, or like with some kind of karmic lesson that you've been really working towards learning and understanding. So I haven't really been channeling a lot, although Alex has been having tons of realizations this morning. So, but I haven't really been channeling a lot. We're just going to see what comes out here in the cards. So we do have 3 piles and an anchor card. So I'm just going to put the anchor up there in case, is it just me or does it look super tiny?
It's smaller.
That might be relevant or not. Take that however it resonates for you. But so that is the anchor card, and it is the Thanatos energy. I believe that we read the cards together, so I like for you guys to get a good look, a good gander at the main cards that are coming out in the reading. So if you're getting any information, or if you see it in your mind or something in the pile, that might be something worth paying attention to, because I believe that I'm tapping into the general energies, and of course take what resonates and what doesn't there. But if you pick up on something that might be relevant to your situation, it might be worth mentioning it in the comments, because it could be for somebody else as well. So I'm going to put that up. These are our piles. So pile number 1 is the one. That's funny. Pile number 2 is the Bardo, and pile number 3 is the Vision. And I'm just going to put that up there. If you haven't already chosen your pile, now's a good time to do that. You can be drawn into more than one pile, and I like to just set the intention that whatever happens in the tarot reading space can be a message in and of itself. It's a way for your guides to kind of come through, and part of that is, I feel, getting your intuition online and just understanding how your intuition works, just overall, the way that your guides like to communicate with you, or how it's moving through a particular situation. So there can be broader messages, especially for me, like the way that I get drawn into a pile can sometimes be a message in and of itself. It can be like, well, this is how you're going to get to your realization. You're going to think that it's one thing and then maybe go to a different thing, and that can be exemplified in the piles, or just things like that can teach you something overall about how to kind of pilot your own system, if that makes sense. So we'll go ahead and take a deep breath and just have a moment of silence, do our full, as they say, one breath is a meditation. So, and we'll just bring that energy down in a good way, like below the kind of hustle and bustle energy. And then you can choose your pile in that time, or just join us either way. But we'll go ahead and do that now. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and be drawn in to whatever pile or multiple piles that you feel drawn in to. Oh, and a reminder, we're reading the book Codependent No More by Beattie. I'm just going to put that up there. I'm just saying it because sometimes at the end of the readings after the piles, we either do a general message or we read a book. And the idea is that the book is kind of the general message that our guides are kind of trying to get across. If you feel called to listen to that, I just want to give you a heads up that that's what we're doing after 3 piles. So check back in a couple of hours if you're interested in doing that, or after the live stream is completed. You might feel drawn in to listen to a certain chapter or a certain couple of chapters or the book overall, but we are in the process of reading the book. And this has been a very interesting read, I think it has been. I've read it before, but it's just, it's been a while, and just having these ideas like re-solidified is always really helpful. That's always a part of my process too. And maybe I'm throwing this out here, and maybe this is part of the realization, is that I'm a person who really, really likes the basics of things. Like, I like to just circle back around to the foundation, into the basics, and then try to like let my own mind kind of play around with the basics. And that's how I like to learn. So just throwing that out there for anybody. Okay. So I'll just throw this up one more time, and we're going into pile number 1, which is the one. Pile number 1. Okay. So, well, there's clearly like a black and white color palette here. Okay, so let's just see what wants to come through. Ooh, I'm feeling like a tickle in my ears. Oh, okay. I kind of feel like there's something here about like, okay, see how there's like all these lines like around the one thing here, and it looks like it's all kind of like funneling into like something here, the one kind of energy. And that feels to me like maybe this is like God or ultimate reality or something, but it also feels like this realization. So I feel like maybe your spirit guides have been trying to communicate with you. Yeah. And I feel like it's come across more like this in like the Thanatos energy, where it's like all this web and everything's like kind of sticky and stuff. I get it. That there's certain ways that we can make sense of the information around us, or like that can either be like really sticky and kind of like confusing and can get you like stuck, or there's a way where it can all kind of like be pointing to this thing in the middle, but it doesn't, like, notice the lines don't go all the way to the middle. So it's like, it's just kind of like pointing there. So there may be just a way of working with knowledge or information kind of within yourself. It also like because I just get that they have actually been trying to bring something through that's like simple, kind of like a yes or a no kind of thing, like certain things like a yes or a no, all kind of around in different arenas to point towards like some kind of realization here, but it might have led to some kind of fear. Okay, so if there's anything here that you are afraid of, like really afraid of, that it's like, it seems to kind of get you stuck in your mind, it's not meant to make you afraid. There's actually a different way of looking at it. I'm getting goosebumps. There's a different way of looking at it, where it's meant to be giving you some kind of like simple like information or something here like that, but like kind of all around you in order to point to some kind of like higher truth. But it feels like higher isn't the best way of putting it, like higher truth, truth with a capital T, ultimate reality, but it feels like a more cohesive or holistic truth. Like it's all kind of pointing to something here, and it's not meant to scare you, but as you're kind of gathering it, it may have been kind of sticky or like fear inducing or something here like that. So that realization, I actually think, is the thing that's meant to set you free of like, oh, because sometimes when we're scared, we can shut down a little bit, and then like our vision becomes very, I get it. Our vision becomes like very precise and very specific and very detail oriented and very material. And that's kind of a thing that keeps us bound to the material and to like 3D thinking and everything, and not actually like expanding and opening our minds up. So I feel like maybe you're going through a process where you're kind of in the gathering the information stage, or like if you were going to build a fire, you would have to go like gather the sticks, different kinds of sticks, like the little sticks to set the fire and the bigger sticks on top of it and everything, and kind of like build it up. And that might be a time, where you're in the woods and you're kind of scary. Well, it feels kind of scary, but it's just like one thing that's kind of like in front of you. But when you get this thing going, I feel like it's going to be the thing that kind of enlightens you in a way. So I feel like they're having you kind of set something up here, but it's going to like lead to your liberation or something. And they want you to, oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps. They're trying to comfort you. And I'm hearing, I have a spell. It's a quick and easy spell, and I'm happy to gift this to you as well. Whatever, it's called Comfort Comes, and it's whatever comfort that I need comes in quickly right to me. Whatever comfort that I need comes in quickly right to me. Whatever comfort that I need comes in quickly right to me. As I speak it, so mote it be for the highest and greatest good of all beings, including me. So mote it be. So I feel like for some of you, this is so some of you maybe do need some kind of like comfort that this is, all of this is for you. Like all of this is happening like for you. It's not happening to you, and it's trying to lead somewhere. And so having that realization is going to allow you. The other thing here is to maybe expand the mind and the context, which is hard to do when we feel afraid, and also to listen, because I keep like my ears feel like they're trying to like expand or something too. So like to actually listen, because when we're scared, we kind of like shut down, and then we can only maybe hear the things that we want to hear or something like that, where, and again, it's with this like yes, no energy, because I think that they're doing it almost like Morse code, where it's like they're trying to keep it simple. They've tried to put certain things in front of you that are like very simple, but I don't know, there's certain things that are like maybe yes, no, or something, and it's trying to point to some kind of like bigger realization, but it's also meant to set you free, or like some kind of freedom or liberation. Okay, and then I grabbed the Santa Muerte deck, and whenever I reach for this deck, to me, it's like Saint Death energy. And so I feel like this feels like a whole level of consciousness that you're kind of working through. And okay, so that's another thing, is like broadening the context, where you might have questions about like, well, why did this thing happen? And why did that thing happen? And why did this? And the answer to that, the clue, is not that thing in and of itself. It's got a bigger goal that it's kind of beyond like the level of consciousness that created it, sort of a thing. It's the fingers pointing to the moon. So like, well, why did this happen, or why did that happen? The answer is not, if you drill down, which fear will make you do, like smaller and smaller and smaller, it's not going to make sense to you, because it's not on the like the things that you already, on the level that you already understand. It's meant to kind of actually, I think maybe even for some of you, bring you to a conundrum or a problem that you can't actually solve, you know, where it's kind of like, I don't understand this. And you're not, because from the level of consciousness that like maybe we're all on here on the earth plane, or that you happen to be on at this time in your journey or something, it's meant to be like, well, the answer isn't here, and to get you kind of looking up, and then you're going to pop through some kind of other level of consciousness. There's like a glass ceiling or a barrier here where and it might even look like a limitation or a restriction, like, well, I can't go beyond that. But then once you kind of do, and this is like a very liberating kind of moment. This isn't like, it might seem scary, but it's not meant to be. Like, that's when it's all going to make sense, is like when it pops up to a different level, and then it will be like the greatest thing. Like it's all going to make sense, and it's all going to make sense under the guise of love. Like, oh my gosh, I was so loved. And I feel like this is guide energy, spirit guide energy. And this here in the middle, you'll notice, looks kind of blurry. And I think that's on purpose, because I feel like it's your spirit guides, but I also feel like, I've been thinking about this a lot. I think that the divine is collective, if that makes sense. Like, but I couldn't do it all alone. It's like very much that. It's like, oh, I'm getting goosebumps. It's like they're saying like, yes, like, it's like love, it's family. It's like that we are all one kind of thing. Like, and just from the way that you look at it, it's like we are all one. The same way that like your liver is made up of a lot of different cells, and you can look at each one of those cells as like an individual, and you can be like, that is a cell, or you can be like, that is one liver. And so depending on how you look at it, it's like, well, it's a cacophony of cells, or it is a one singular thing. And you'll notice life is kind of like that. I like to think about that sometimes. It's the same way, like geographically, it's like I'm a person, but then I'm also a member of this family, who's a member of this community, who's a member of this county, who's a member of this city, who's a member of this state, who's a member of these union of states that is a country, which is like another singular thing. All these things are like, you pop up, you see what I'm saying? It's like this pop up kind of level where everything looks like it's just kind of individual, but then you realize it all kind of plays its part, and then it makes sense, like where it's another singular unified thing that's held together by like a gravity of forces, and so I feel like you're gonna start to realize that, and I think it's miraculous. It's the thing that's gonna seem miraculous, or it's gonna seem like, wow, that like aha moment thing is what they're trying to kind of lead you to, some kind of like putting it all together, and it's taking a little, like, it's gonna take some time. And before that, I feel like maybe it's looked a bit like this, like kind of getting stuck in thought, because again, if you try to make sense of it on the same level of consciousness, then I feel like maybe it looks like you're being like, I just heard tortured, like, or just poked at, like by spirit, where you're like, ow, okay, like you got my attention. What? And it's like, no, I'm trying to, you solve it. Like, it's like the way that spirit's poking you is meant for you to unlock your own power, or unlock some type of truth or something here. So this is like, okay, kind of broad, but, I like it. This is like, yeah, I'm just hearing like enlightenment, liberation kind of a thing. Free your mind and the rest will follow. This is also, it's something beyond the mind is what I want to say. There's an intelligence beyond the mind. There's an intelligence beyond the mind, and that intelligence is reaching out to you. Okay. So what else, Spirit, for pile number 1? Oh, okay. Some of you could have felt blame for something because, okay, so this is the 8 of Swords, and it like kind of came out like, yeah. Oh, okay. So something here looks like an invader, and like, see that skull and how scary it is? That looks like something you'd see in like a scary pirate movie. And it's like, see, these are each of the individual truths right here, all the swords. And it's like, no, back up. Like it feels like an invader, like, and your immune system or our immune system is trying to like fight it off. But I feel like this is a saint death. This is the saint death energy that's like kind of trying to bring forward. And I feel like I've had a couple of readings recently that have like led to this, that have also kind of like been exploring this or something here. Yeah. And there's something here that you're trying to explore with the mind. And there's fear attached to it. And there's like a lot of different details that have all been, I feel like I don't know that I'm going to be able to figure out what exactly this is because I think it's different for everybody else. But I feel like you're trying to look at it from the edge of the mind here, through the lens of the mind. And like, again, collecting the details and pattern recognition and things like that. But there's something bigger. Look, but I couldn't do it all alone. It's like cooperation, context, putting everything in context here. There is a death energy because this is Bharani. To me, sometimes the Three of Cups is Bharani energy, which is in Taurus, or I'm sorry, in Aries. And it is Yama, the god of death, rules over it. But it's a birth, because the Yoni rules over it, the female organ. And so it's that death energy that's also a birth energy where you are now birthed into a different world. And it's going to bring some level of balance. And also that's where the karmas will be balanced out here. Not necessarily like the retribution, but it'll all make sense here. Like, and for some of you, there's a way that you're thinking about karma that's, again, like very limited because, I don't know, certain things are done to us and it's actually like trying to push us up to a different consciousness and then kind of realizing something else. And then that's somehow the karmas are going to get balanced out that way. Yeah, it's not about competition is what I'm getting. Or it's not trying to hold you back. Whatever this is. Okay, so... I also feel like... Okay, there might be a way that you're connecting. What is this related to? Because there's something here that could be hidden out of fear. Certain things that are part of like pointing this... I don't know. This feels very abstract and very like kind of general. Okay, so what do you want to say to pile number 1, Spirit? What is the realization? What do you want to say about this like realization here? Yeah, there's a lot of confusion. Okay, so I do wonder. Yeah, okay, so I feel like there's maybe something where it was meant, like something here is meant to be collaborative and cooperative, but it could be that like maybe even a number of people were scared because we have the 7 of Cups that came out first, and this is obviously a card of options, but it's a card of haze and confusion, and to me it's kind of a card of fear, like where fear is causing for there to be confusion and not knowing how to navigate, and I also just heard advocate in my mind, not knowing how to navigate, or maybe there is something or someone that you want to advocate for, but there's like a certain level of fear here. So it's like, well, how do I like figure out my options? And this may actually be happening with like a number of people that are, they're trying to maybe even bring about their values because it's Venus and Scorpio energy, but they're like hiding it or they're trying to be strategic about it. And that is what's like kind of, maybe people are trying to maintain like the upper ground, but it's hard to have like teamwork and collaboration that allows things to grow when everybody's like trying to maintain the upper ground. So there's a way that people are communicating or trying to do the right thing, but it's through the lens of fear, if that makes sense. And that could be in your own mind, or that could be like, again, people around you where it feels like it's hard to get this message across. Oh, okay. So, I feel like all these signs that your guides have been sending you, it's not just things that have happened to you in particular. It's things that other people have, different pieces of the puzzle. But when people are in this position where they're scared and they're trying to maintain their like higher position, that's what leads to kind of like fear and like the things don't stack up the way that they're meant to, sort of a thing. So I feel like it's meant to be cooperative, not competitive. That's part of the realization. It's meant to be cooperative and not competitive. Yeah, that's the enlightenment experience. And that's what's going to help you turn a corner in your soul. But also I think it means that there might be something to kind of leave behind because it's not about maintaining the upper position. Something here is not about maintaining the upper position. Yeah. And it's not necessarily, it's about being noble and kind of doing the right thing. And I think for some of you, you did do this, but then like there's other people around you that weren't trustworthy, and you kind of trusted the wrong people. And then maybe that ended you up like feeling very alone and isolated. Maybe for some of you knew it was about collaboration, but then it turned into competition. And that's kind of the understanding here. Yeah, there was some type of manipulative energy. If that's the case, then I feel like there was something here about timing and manipulation, and it was because you were like the favorite. But I feel like, or like you were supposed to be the leader. And the leader this is different to me. This is coming across different to me than the Seven of Wands energy, because the Emperor is the leader. It's the decision maker. Whereas the Seven of Wands, this is somebody trying to like kind of fight for the upper spot. And I feel like there's somebody here who was naturally defending some kind of higher principle, and they are supposed to be the leader. And so part of that collaborative effort is sometimes you do have leaders. And just because somebody emerges as a leader, whether this is you or this is somebody else, doesn't mean that it's now not collaborative, because it's got some kind of structure to it. And there might be more than one leader, like in different ways, or like, but it's, it doesn't, because there's some kind of like sneaking around. Now this is starting to get kind of specific, but, and it's all from a position of lack. And so somebody here has to like deal with their own lack and kind of like move forward that way. But there's something here about time. And there's a lot of sevens that have come out, and 7 is the number of like the divine path. And I'm just getting that somebody's maybe waiting for a divine path to open up. And they think that the divine path is like people to turn on somebody here that's actually bringing in this like saint death energy. And this person could be the emperor, like genuinely supposed to be the emperor. Oh, and this makes me think of, because people were saying like how at the beginning of this, like they were saying a bunch of nice things. They were like, thank you, Jess. Like you've been such a teacher. And, I try not to get like sucked into certain things like that. But I'm starting to be like, yeah, like why can't I be a teacher? But I'm definitely not like, I don't like thinking like it's not a spiritual teacher, because I feel like spiritual teachers kind of know a lot of things, or like they know most things. I know for a fact I don't know most things, but there are certain things that I do know. And I think that, teacher and student are two sides of the same coin. And you have healer, master. Those are like, on top of that. So yeah, I feel like we're all teachers and we're all students. And so I feel like maybe there's a person here who is meant to be a teacher in one thing, but not necessarily another thing. And that's like about this kind of collaborative effort. But I feel like there is something here that gummed up the works in regards of something that was meant to be collaborative. And it really threw everything off kilter. And I don't know where you sit in this. Like if you were the person who was supposed to be kind of emerging as a leader, and then, and whoever did that, I think was genuinely standing for something, some higher principle or something like that. And you ended up alone. Or you were leading with nobility in some way, and you ended up trusting the wrong people. There's another person here who definitely gummed up the works, at least one person who kind of incited fear. And they were doing that. They were maybe telling lies. They were obscuring things about you or somebody else. Or this could be even, if this isn't in a group, which I think maybe it is, I feel like this is the angel and the devil on your shoulder, like two voices inside the mind even. And even if this is a group thing, I think maybe there's two voices inside the mind. One is fear and one is moving towards collaboration and love and trust and nobility. And so there's somebody here who I think was sneaking around and maybe acting collaborative, but was trying to section out like a smaller group of people in order for their own plans. To rival you or to go against you or to overthrow this natural emperor energy. Because I think this person doesn't like authority. Just on the principle on the basis that it's authority. And they think that, it should be collaborative. And it's like, well, sometimes being collaborative needs like a leader to emerge. And a leader has emerged, because it feels like there's a leader that merged up from the muck and the mire. They are kind of one and the same with what's gone on. They're not an outside force coming in. They really have risen up like within something. They've proven themselves to be like the leader. And somebody here is like all up in their head, like about that. And being like very shady. And maybe this person's having some type of realization now. So that's the realization that somebody needs, is that they need to make amends. So if you were that person, I think that you thought you were righteous, because I think you thought that you were like, this should be collaborative. Why are you like, you're such a tyrant? And really they weren't. This is somebody who rose up from this and was, I just heard Rosa Parks, which is like, she was on the bus, right? And I think she was at the back of the bus. And I feel like real leaders lead from the back. And she also, I'm getting goosebumps. She led with her body. She put herself where, like, she put her body and her actions where her values were. And somebody here has like done that. And I think that they've been ousted from the bus or something like that. But the bus was meant to get you from here to there in like some kind of way. And so somebody is realizing, like, whoever was sneaking around and like kind of strategizing. And again, for some of you, this is going to make sense possibly on two levels, like externally in some kind of cooperative environment, but also internally of like with the mind. The fear energy. Well, I have to get strategic or this or that. But somebody here needs to make amends. They need to make some type of amends here. So that something can move forward, because and something here is, I don't know, it required possibly two energies, like a very noble energy and somebody that was less noble in some kind of way, but moving towards the right thing together. That's just for some of you, like an actual, everybody kind of playing their part sort of a thing. So I feel like there's been something here was meant to be collaborative. Somebody here was overcome by their fear, and so it made them confused and it got them stuck in their own mind. And so they weren't actually bringing cooperative energy to the table. They were opposing a natural leader. And because when they saw emperor energy, they were like, you must be oppressive. You must think that you're this, or you must think that you're that. And maybe that person comes from the right place with it, because maybe they've only known like authority to be oppressive or to not be legitimate or something like that. So, but a collaborative effort sometimes does need a leader, at least like for a period of time or something like that. So I feel like there's been some confusion around an emperor kind of energy. I'm starting to get confused now. So what else, Spirit? There's something here about timing again coming up. Huh. Why is this coming through? Because it's telling me something, but it doesn't seem like in alignment with the reading. So I'm just asking. Okay, High Priestess. We're clearly doing a tarot reading. And then the Fool. Look, this is like, right. Okay. The Lovers. So all major arcana. Oh, I think this has to do with intuition. Okay, so whatever's going... Okay, so this situation, whatever it is, has made the intuition very difficult to follow. And this is like if you're in the situation, or even if you're a person that like maybe does this for a living, and then like it's hard to tap in because there's different drives. Oh, I get it. There's different drives and there's different voices in this group, because I feel like this is a situation where maybe there's been a group that's affected things, and it might not be a group proper, but there's more than one person who is meant to contribute something, their bit of information to your life or to your story that's meant to help navigate you. Take that how it resonates. But it feels like there's something playing out in the external world where there's different voices, but then internally there's different voices. And this is the structure of the mind is what they're saying. And so following our intuition is like determining the different voices in the mind. And so they're saying there's been something here about like competition. This person who's trying to like induce competition has maybe gotten stuck. They tried to go independent from this like collaborative effort here, or just it feels like a selfish kind of independent, and or they've seen themselves in this energy. Whoever like was competitive has seen themselves as like, well, I'm independent, or like I'm orphaned because I wasn't taken care of by the group. They weren't taken care of by the group because they were not cooperative, and they were not cooperative because they saw some kind of emperor energy. It doesn't have to be a man, but this is some kind of like emperor energy that rose up from the group that's healthy, and that is part of the collaboration. And this person has a competitive mindset, and they are wanting to stand out. I feel like they are saying, well, why can't that be me? That is the person who doesn't have a collaborative mindset. They are looking, okay, I get it. So there's somebody here who has like a hierarchical mindset or something, and they're like, well, I want to rival, or I want to challenge. Because that should be me, when it really shouldn't. Because there's somebody here who was naturally risen up from the circumstances, from the energies, possibly from the group itself, that that is meant to lead, because something here like that. So they've gotten themselves stuck because they thought of themselves as being this Knight of Pentacles energy. They thought of themselves as being an orphan or being independent, or that they were supposed to be prominent in something here, because their greed and their lust for power was telling them that. But they were focused on somebody here being the enemy, somebody that was a natural leader, because they were jealous and they wanted the top spot. But that somebody's leadership here was collaborative and somebody else's wasn't. And so I feel like they could have like met somebody and then it was like a blockage. Somebody here could have like met somebody, and it doesn't have to be a romantic person. They like met somebody and there was some kind of like lot of energy here around that. And it was meant to sever something karmically and to kind of block something. And then they're looking back with the mind. They're looking back with the mind that is not really giving them the full truth. And they're saying I had to take a risk, or I had to do this or that. But actually something here was like maybe about money. Something here was like, think about money. And there's a cyclical issue here that requires further thought, but not of the mind. It requires further reflection. And that's given rise to some kind of Saturnian energy, maybe some kind of authority. So it's like whatever emperor energy kind of like had risen up naturally, or if it wasn't messed with, it would have risen up naturally. And that's part of the collaborative effort. And it's temporary, temporal. It's temporary. And it's a part of like the divine plan. That somebody here has done something here that's given a rise to a Saturnian energy that is an authority, that is binding, that is everything that they were saying that emperor was, but the emperor wasn't. And so the lesson here, the challenge is to see something clearly, that there was something here about the one energy. And again, I go back to there's like a group of cells, but then it all comes together for some kind of like higher purpose. And this person, somebody here didn't want to be a part of a higher purpose. They wanted to lead. They look at everybody as competition, and I want to be at the top spot. That's their worldview. Not like, oh, I understand that we're supposed to be, all of us are different cells, but we're supposed to be a liver. So you do this, you do that, you do that. Like, and then now we're actually functioning, So two very different mindsets, two very different energies that I think could have been playing out in the world somehow that you're like struggling to deal with, and but also like internally. And if this competitive person is able to access some level of leadership, then I feel like that increases the fear and the way that things are not being like put together. It's like there's variables. There's different variables of information that are supposed to be put together in a cohesive manner that's supposed to lead to liberation. And I'm hearing Dr. Joe Dispenza now in my mind, who says you are at your best self when you are outside of yourself. Not meaning like when you're dissociative, but when you overcome and truly transcend your own personal ego. That's what this is trying to teach. And somebody needed to be put in a position where they needed to transcend their own personal, they were asked to do that by the universe. They were asked to transcend their own personal ego and to work collaboratively and to assess that they are not in fact fit to lead, and they don't have a vision to lead, or they don't even, they're not thinking about everybody else. They're thinking about, I want the top spot and why should you have it, which is incredibly immature and definitely not, that's the person who should be at the end of the line for leadership, not anywhere near the beginning, but they'll rival. And they'll try to get their name in those circles or something like that. So that's what it's led to, a lot of fear and a lot of confusion and certain people getting stuck. But that person has like gotten themselves stuck in some type of karmic bind, I feel like, at this point in time. And that's a side message I feel like that's wanting to come out. So and I feel like whoever was like this leader, there is like a favorite energy here. But there's an openness, there's a curiosity. This is maybe the kind of person that was selected for leadership, is somebody, it's kind of giving Marilyn Monroe. So I don't know if this is like, it could be a feminine energy, but like Marilyn Monroe as a person, but then a lot of her characters, it's like people underestimate her. And she always says something kind of like prescient. Like there's that one scene where the guy's father that she's interested in is like, you just want to marry him for his money. And she was like, no, I don't, silly. I want to marry him for your money. And he's like, well, see, and she's like, don't you understand that a guy being rich is the same as a girl being pretty? And he was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, I mean, it's not everything, but doesn't it help? And it's like, there's an innocence there where she's like, but also just like a plainness. And I feel like there's something here about like leadership or emperor energy where it's like, doesn't it help to be a leader? Like, do I want all the stuff? No, but like, doesn't it help? And also if I have to take on the burden of leadership and I don't have to worry about my survival needs, doesn't it help? Or like, I don't know. It feels like there's something here like that. But it feels like somebody here is like trying to paste judgment in order to, but they're not actually critiquing, because there's a place for critique, when critique doesn't come from an emotional space and a selfish space and I feel small kind of space. That critique is never on point. It's never in alignment with the truth. And that kind of critique adds to confusion. And so I feel like there's something here that's gone on, but it's also in the mind. It's the way that the mind works. It's a double-edged sword. The mind is like the air suit, and that's the double-edged sword. And so there was some kind of temptation here. And I can't tell if this is happening in the past or if this is currently happening, but there's some kind of temptation where if you don't go in for, so I think there was somebody here with a competitive mindset, and it was like they saw somebody who is, again, I want to say Marilyn Monroe. Now this totally could be a man, okay? But Marilyn Monroe is also kind of one of the archetypes for Rohini, which is in the middle of Taurus. And it's the born sexy yesterday kind of energy. Its color is red, and they kind of are an invention, like, of it's kind of, you remember that movie El Mahina, which is like the machine or whatever, but they build these kind of like robots, and they're very like sexy women robots, because whatever you invent, there's kind of a lustful kink kind of quality to that, can be. And it's kind of that. It's like, so this person could have been built up by the society in that way or something, but it feels like not true to who they are. And that is the energy that then moves to Mrgashira and exits the Garden of Eden, but usually destroys whatever created it. So it feels like maybe there's something here like that, where somebody was asked to, it's like, okay, well, this energy that, oh my gosh, energetically, this is kind of profound, and I haven't like really gone into this, but I feel like there's an energy that was created by the society, and it might be Marilyn Monroe, but they were created to serve. They were created to be sexy and just to serve. And basically God, and I'm literally, this is crazy, this is blowing my mind. Spirit was like, crown that king. That is, you put that below you, like you made it or whatever. So in a way, it's a kind of shadow energy, but it's like if you crown that king and allow it to rule, because at least it's curious. There's like a curiosity here, and it's not after its own like self-interest or something, it's just curious, and it's learning, and it wants to do the right thing, So if you crown that energy king, then you can sit in the Garden of Eden, is kind of what it feels like. And kind of run off the other like leadership energies. But if not, it's going to exit and it's going to destroy the thing and that's just the way that the zodiac unfolds right there from Taurus moving into Gemini. And that thing leaving, then it begins its own hero's journey, where then it builds itself up into having its own Garden of Eden, where then it starts to create, and then the cycle kind of repeats and continues. So I feel like there's something here like that, where there was definitely a temptation of like, I think I can overthrow that person because they're sweet, or you're just meant to be, maybe some of you didn't know that, like, if this is you, that this happened to, you didn't know that you're being looked at like that. It's kind of giving like, that's just a stupid, like dumb blonde, what do they know about anything? It's kind of giving that, so there was some kind of temptation of, I think I can overthrow that. I think that it's weak, not realizing there's an energy behind this, that this is a temptation from the devil of like doing that there's two entirely different minds here that are operating, and like two entirely different energies, and there was like kind of a divergence, and and like one is like offers a sanctuary, and the other offers like, I don't know, getting kicked out. This is kind of trippy to me. I just want to look into this like Marilyn Monroe energy, because why is it coming through like that? Oh my gosh, it's going to lead somebody to victory here. It's the leader. This is funny to me. This is actually funny to me. So yeah, it's the Six of Wands. Like, it's on the way of being successful. So it's basically like get on the momentum or don't. But and somebody here is like waiting for that energy to be like pointed the finger at, found lacking in some kind of way. Yeah, waiting. There's a tick-tock, like waiting for that energy to be found lacking. And and there's something here about, I feel like it's feeling anxiety that maybe it's not happening, but also thinks that that person having anxiety means that they're not fit for leadership. When I actually feel like there's something here of like, it's very human. They're not a sociopath. You know, they're having anxiety and they're curious and they're working something out. This is the vein that Spirit's wanting us to kind of follow down. There's a purity in that curiosity. There's a purity here that Spirit can work with. Not the kind of purity of like purity culture and like it has to be fully blemishless. There's an innocence. That's what it is. It's like there's an innocence. Oh, my innocence is the seed of my nobility. My own innocence is made known to me. So there's one person here who's innocent. In regards of leadership, I'm literally getting goosebumps again. Leadership and nobility, there's one person innocent. They don't want it. They're curious and they care about people and they were created and so kind of victimized in a way by this because they were created not for themselves, but they were created to serve in a way. And something was all warped inside of them to be a servant. And so there's an innocence there. That Spirit is saying, I will work with that. I can move through that innocence. Innocence is the seed of my nobility. My own innocence is made known to me. So they can be trusted and Spirit will infuse that person with victory and power when it comes to actual leadership. Over here is decrepit. And somebody here is thinking, I'm the leader and I will barbarian my way through life. And that makes me the leader and I'm willing to do what's necessary. And Spirit goes, and the world will crumble beneath you because you are not supported. Because there's no innocence there. So this was kind of a wild one. But I also feel like even if this doesn't resonate in your external environment, I think it's voices in the mind of like how to navigate a certain situation. That it's okay to be curious or to not have all the answers because that pulls other people in with Marilyn Monroe. Like, how do I do this, silly? Like, you know, not necessarily that you have to be so like sexual, but the whole thing about Rohini energy is one time eventually it will realize that something. It's smart. And Marilyn Monroe is very smart, you know, but it will eventually realize kind of what's gone on here and it will look at the person differently. And that is kind of the energy that will destroy it. But if you can destroy it within the Garden of Eden, you can keep the Garden of Eden. This is revolution, kind of. If it can come up from within. So there was somebody here who I think is a seed or plants the seed of something's destruction, but Saint Death energy. And this feels, I'm getting goosebumps again. This feels like communal or something. So I don't know where you sit in this. Like if you are one of these two people or if you are like kind of watching this like sort of happen. Innocence is a seed of my own ability. Yeah. Because Spirit can't work with a corrupted like energy that just wants for itself. So that's something here we'll follow. Yeah. So it's about like moving away from some type of lack. Also, I feel like, yeah, this energy that's very Marilyn Monroe. And again, this could be a male, but like, it's funny. And it's making me smile because it's, again, you wouldn't think of that as being a leadership energy. You just, you know, because of the way that our society, like, doesn't allow somebody to be that attractive and also like funny and sweet or like, you know, and also like be a leadership. So I feel like somebody was looking at this person through their lack. They lack manliness, like Marilyn Monroe, very feminine energy. Even if this is a man, it's like, well, they lack manliness, you know, like John Wayne, you know? And so they were looking at this person through the lens of lack, but Spirit was looking at this person through the lens of what they have and that other people don't have. And Spirit is actually viewing others as lacking in comparison to whatever this energy is that was deemed too feminine or too, I want to say words like airhead and stupid, but I don't think this is an actual quality here. I think that this is maybe even a person who just, they like what they like and they're not ashamed of it, you know, because Marilyn Monroe was just like, well, yeah, I like this or I like that. And I don't think that should disqualify me for anything, you know, but the world kind of jumps on that. But there's a certain kind of innocence there. So, okay, this one was kind of confusing and a bit like abstract. It also meant that somebody here didn't feel like they could argue with this energy, like straightforward because it's so feminine, but Spirit is like, and wouldn't that lead to peace or harmony? Like if, you know, I don't know, but it feels like there was maybe some kind of accident or yeah, something here broke the mold. Something here like kind of breaks the mold. So even if this is something that you're resonating with inside of your brain where there's a lot of fear here and you're trying to like navigate something, part of the fear of like what I feel like is a divine path that's trying to call out to you is that it breaks the mold. I feel like it breaks the mold of some kind of like societal training and conditioning. But again, I'm getting goosebumps because this feels so exciting. It's like, yeah, well, your society has only been able to go so far. So don't you want to just like, boom, like I'm getting goosebumps again. It feels like very exciting, like what's on the other side of this. Yeah. And like having to work through fears and illusions because it feels like actually this competitive person, whoever has this mindset, and who is only looking at this other person through a lens of lack, and again, it could be a voice in the mind, is the one that's saying put forth an image that they can't really actually back up in order to appeal to the masses, is kind of what I'm getting with the moon, because the moon kind of rules over masses. So it's like, in order to emotionally appeal to the masses, but actually, like when you see, like she's looking in the mirror there and it's like skeleton, it's like bare bones, like what actually they have to offer and bring to the table when it comes to like the watery energy, maybe money or emotions or something like that, is bare bones. And look, we've got the death card here. So yeah, I think somebody here was like feeling like, when somebody here wasn't failing, it's like causing some kind of anxiety. And it even could be that if you've gone with this voice that's like kind of breaking the mold a little bit, when it doesn't actually fall on its face and you're actually building the airplane in the air, it might even feel like anxiety or nervous. But Spirit is collaborating with you and working with you. And the way forward isn't the way forward that these other people think it is, because it's much more, it's the cups. It's the collaboration. It's forming connections. It's like, you know, and it's helping you grow in wisdom. And there is a plan. There is a plan, but the plan is Spirit's plan, and it's going to come in from the outside. And then people are going to be like, look at that, you know, like kind of a thing is what it feels like. I don't know. This is like kind of a confusing one, but, and also there's something here with the Mars energy, because this is Danishta energy, where so first of all, I feel like, again, there's some kind of person here who doesn't fit the mold, and it doesn't have to be in like a Marilyn Monroe kind of a way, you know, but there's something about it where that's the way that maybe even people are looking at this person, like they're ditzy, or that they're just too girlish, or like something here to be the emperor, but they are the emperor. Or Spirit can at least see that that person has the seeds of being a truly noble emperor kind of person in it. If you have to have somebody calling the shots, it's that person. Well, that's the emperor is Mars energy. Well, you've got Danishta here. Danishta is the height of Mars, and Mars is a malefic. But Mars, when you engage in right and proper action, has a purifying energy. And there's that word purity again, which I don't exactly like throwing around here, but it's like, it's tied with innocence. It's purifying the Mars energy, the actions. And I actually feel like there's maybe this is a woman, or whoever this Marilyn Monroe is, I feel like has healthy yang energy, healthy masculine energy, and has maybe even incarnated this way as a sacrifice, or to teach this lesson or something here like that, to make up for their own karmas in the past. But like they're going to become their strongest like yang self, maybe in a female form, or in this odd way, to show how to wield power and to give a different archetype of like that emperor energy. And they're going to be Danishta energy. One thing about it is it's usually very different, but once you have that Danishta person that comes through, that becomes the mold. That becomes kind of the new mold that it can't ever really be replicated, but there's a lot of attempts to replicate it. Like society kind of demands that we replicate that, but the inside is what was the difference. And so you'll see this with like models like Cindy Crawford. She had the mole, and then, you know, somebody else came up like with the mole. I can't remember their name, but, you know, like they were trying to make Cindy happen again, but Cindy already happened. And so you need to have like the next kind of like, you know, person who has their own. What made her unique was that she had her own kind of uniqueness. And people used to say, I guess, that if you had a mole or whatever, like you couldn't be seen as attractive on the modeling stage or whatever. So the next person who is their own unique kind of, you know, is supposed to then rise up and become the new thing. You see what I'm saying? Like, and we're not really comfortable as that, like as a human species, of like finding the new thing. That's why Hollywood makes the same movies over and over and over again, you know, or like the same franchises. And so it's leading to a place of hermit. This was all geared towards growing in wisdom. Everybody here collaborating in this way is growing in wisdom. So this Marilyn Monroe figure is growing in wisdom, taking on that leadership role. And then whoever is asked to fold in is growing in wisdom, because they're having to view this energy in a different way, view themselves in a different way, and like break free of the conditioning that's saying it only has to be this way. You see what I mean? So, okay, I think that I'm going to leave that there, because this was like kind of a convoluted one, but I can't stress enough that this somehow links back to the voices in the mind and like the different paths, like kind of the angel and the devil on your shoulder, or just anybody's shoulder. I feel like there's some kind of quality of the mind that they're wanting you to also realize, to come through, that's preventing you. It's kind of a distorted view of archetypes, you know, if you will, that only this kind of person can do this kind of thing and only that kind of person can do that kind of thing. But that's like very folded in to this thing that we're supposed to grow beyond. We're supposed to grow beyond it. There's more beyond it, and it's way happier. But some people just want to keep playing out certain things, and It seems very self-involved, and fear-based. And that's what's causing a lot of problems, like in a community or something here like that. And there is like karma that's going to be balanced out here for that person if they try to like kind of go their own way or something here. I feel like they're actually going to run into the Saturnian energy that they projected out onto the other person. Oh, well, they're just trying to be like authoritative or whatever. Or that they would get with a man who would be authoritative or something. Okay, so anyways, that was pile number 1. Moving right along. It's giving Legally Blonde. Yeah, it's like that kind of energy of like, you're not really accepted. We have snow here, and I can hear the people out taking care of their snow piles. Oh, thank you. Thought about Rohini. Animal is the male serpent, becoming Mrgashira, the Lake Placid crocodile reading. Oh, the other day, you said the woman was the man's masculine guide. My ex is Denisha, sun and ascendant. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting, is that there is somebody who has like healthy yang energy, but it's also like, can you see me? It could be that somebody is like the guide, you know, and that's one thing that kind of gives me goosebumps in Journey of Souls that I like to listen to over and over again, because when he really asks like certain questions, he'll be like, well, do you recognize your guide anywhere in your life? And they'll be like, oh, yes, I do. It's my nephew. Or like, oh, it's my this or my that. For some, it's been like their child. And they're like, so why did your guide incarnate in that way? And I remember one was like with a mother, and I think it was her son. And she said, oh, he incarnated so when I would look into his eyes, I would have the strength to leave. Like some kind of abusive relationship. I could just cry right now thinking about it. But so usually guides can come in some kind of like sacrificial role or something, like to kind of like, or give you that little oomph. But it could be that this person is like some kind of guide, and they are teaching about masculinity, but they're teaching that masculinity doesn't come from the body. And that it's not about domination, that true masculinity and true emperorship, it doesn't come about domination, and it can't be overly involved in itself. And we know this because usually the best leaders are the ones that aren't really concerned with leadership. And that came out in a reading too. I think it was last week, where it was something like somebody lost something in order to be a leader, and somebody was just thinking about gaining in order to be a leader. And they were like, because they didn't have and so it prevented them from being collaborative and truly cooperative. And masculinity is not at odds with that. But like if you watch a lot of these Hollywood blockbusters with like Bruce Willis, you know, like in a tank top and, you know, saving the day one man at a time, like, you know, it's not very cooperative. It's like, I go my own way. Like you can't tell me what to do. And it's so anti-cooperative. And anyways, yes, I love that story. I cry every time her son frees her. Yes. Okay. So, here is the choices. We're moving on to pile number 2. I'm just going to compassion our space here. Compassion. Yeah. Melanin Wiles. Yes, that's what I said. I said so mote it be at the end, which is just a witchy thing, but it means the same thing as so may it be, but it's M-O-T-E, I think is how you spell it. So mote it be. Yeah, but you got the rest of it right. Okay, so pile number 2. I still got my Christmas stuff out here, some of it, but I put a lot of it away yesterday, and I didn't want to. But but I did, so.
We started Christmas before Halloween, and it's going to be Christmas past Valentine's Day.
Half the year is just Christmas now. All right. Let me just get my gloss on. My lip gloss be popping. Yep. Can hear those snow blowers. Okay. Pile number 2, the Bardo. Okay, hopefully this is going to not be as hard to tap into for me. Sorry if the last one was hard to follow or like confusing. Okay, so pile number 2, Spirit. What realization does pile number 2 need to have? Oh my gosh, I felt clarity, just like absolute clarity, and it came through me. Remember like the reading rainbow sign where like it was like that, but like straight through my heart, and then it created kind of like this road forward kind of a thing. Oh wow. Okay, so there's something here about clarity. So what's the realization? What realization here, Spirit? What realization for pile number 2? Ooh, the devil just came out. Why? Okay, interesting. So we have 2 major arcana. We have the devil, the 2 of swords, and then the lovers. And in the traditional tarot, the devil and the lovers kind of mirror each other, but it's like in an opposite sort of direction. And then we've got the 2 of swords, which is, to me, it's like moon and Libra energy. So there's this kind of like Libran weighing up the scales. But so there may be like trying to figure out like, okay, this is maybe overlapping with pile number 1, that like 2 different roads. That was like way more broad though. So I'm just going to keep going with this because I'm not entirely sure the energies are repeating it. But so there could be some kind of decision here. And usually the 2 of swords is like blocked off at the heart kind of, but it's about like kind of feeling your way through. But then her arms are kind of crossed. So like the 2 swords, the swords of truth, they're kind of crossed over, So maybe there's something here that got crossed, like a line that got crossed. But there's something here about, there could have literally been a line crossed. Like somebody went too far. Somebody like stepped over a line here. A boundary is what I'm getting into some kind of devil energy. So I'm wondering if there's something here that was like devil energy, but came from a soulmate. And it got somebody here like very confused in their heart space. And that might be you or that might be somebody else. But this also could be a karma here. And it might even be like, again, like I'm kind of hearing they want to broaden the way that we're thinking about karmas. So it could be kind of like a shared karma, but the karma exists in somebody's heart. It's like a blockage in somebody's heart that 2 people have to work to kind of undo. One person by not behaving by not being somebody's soulmate and operating in a devilish manner, because it confuses people and it confused somebody's heart here. Maybe you're the person, like your heart is kind of confused. But that is there's certain karmas that need to be kind of relaxed here is like kind of what I'm getting, but it's not up to the person who was treated badly, because I do feel like there's a genuine devil energy here to just put their guard down, to just be convinced like, oh, hey, I was your soulmate, by the way, even though like, I don't know. So, okay. So something here about the past and something here about like friendship and something here about like, changing some kind of sun energy. Oh, I get that. So I feel like somebody here could have Capricorn in their chart, especially like maybe a sun in Capricorn, or if somebody here has strong Capricorn in their chart, there could be a sun in Capricorn person or a sun in Scorpio person that came through to illuminate this space pretty brightly, whatever was going on in Capricorn, because I feel like something here happened here. Even the blockage in this person's heart, nothing is ever just for the sake of suffering. It's always teaching. So I feel like whoever was the person who engaged in this like devilish energy, they needed to be blocked out from their soulmate here in order to sun in Scorpio transform their sun energy, the way they express themselves. And it's meant to push them like the goat up the Capricorn hill, to get them to climb a mountain that they didn't think that they could climb in the past, but actually they're very adept at climbing. So it's meant to push some kind of soul upward here. And that's the way the karma gets like balanced out between these 2. It doesn't get balanced out just because we're talking a Libran energy of like getting things balanced out. It's like sometimes you just work with one side of the scale. If it's too heavy, you don't fix it by saying like, hey, could you be heavier over here? Like, you have to take off certain things on one side to kind of balance it out, but you're working with one side of the scale in order to balance it out. So I feel like, the hand of God here. So maybe some kind of realization about Jupiter energy, expansion energy. Oh, sometimes expansion can be a restriction. Oh, okay. With Capricorn here and the devil energy, sometimes expansion. Oh, okay. It's opposite energies here. So, what am I trying to say? Sometimes expansion in the spiritual sense comes at restricting in the material sense. Like I've overstepped a boundary because it feels like maybe somebody here took too much on the physical. They were too focused on the physical in some way. So they have to restrict themselves in order to grow spiritually. And that's the Jupiterian energy. But it also could be that there was a choice between 2 here, and one was like the lovers and one was the devil. And one could be expanding somebody here on the material, but it's at the expense of the soul. And that might be internally and externally. It's like somebody had to compromise themselves. Somebody had to behave in a devilish manner, which caused maybe their soulmate energy to shut down. This doesn't have to even be romantic. It could be that you've got a child here that is a soulmate, and somebody here is acting in a devilish manner. And then somebody here is, it's confusing that their heart, and they've got to block that off here, So, yeah. So Okay, so this is kind of, we have like the Hand of God card here in this expansion. And then we have these two cards here, the Nine of Pentacles and the Emperor. And this is kind of making me think of pile number 1 with the Emperor, because it could be that Spirit was growing up this like Nine of Pentacles. And look, this is a feminine, but she's different. She's unique. Like, see how she's got like the purple in her hair? And I'm not meant to say that like only people who look super unique on the outside are unique or anything like that. But, and she doesn't look super unique or anything, but like, so I feel like this is like this feminine energy that is like maybe like independent, good on their own. This is somebody who like minds their own business, you know, is not trying to, look how content she is. She's got enough for herself and she's content with that. And, where's her cat? She doesn't have a cat in here. Interesting, because in this deck, they all have cats places. Am I crazy? Where's her cat? Do you see a cat? I'm just putting that there so in case anybody sees one. Oh, Emily, thank you for the super chat. Finishing pile 1. Yes. So beautiful. So maybe she is getting a cat. Like, again, I feel like that's maybe a spiritual initiation here or like a spirit guide or something. But then, so I feel like there was maybe some kind of emperor that was like trying to manipulate all around. Oh, well, there she went. Ugh. Like manipulate this person. But, I actually feel like bibbity bobbity boop. And like this person is becoming the emperor. So this could be the person from pile number 1 that Spirit is like, no, this is the person I want to lead, because look, they're totally unbothered. They're minding their business. They don't have a greed problem. They just want enough like for themselves. So it even could be that. And maybe they're also like alone. So maybe this person wasn't in a partnership or something here. Or maybe they went through this, like where their heart got blocked off because their soulmate did something like weird to them. I don't know. So that could be another way that like lines are being crossed, because it could be that somebody here is like growing in the material, but I don't know. This is like all confused, but I feel like there's a knot here, and it has to do with somebody's like original behavior that they maybe thought that they got away with and did in secret. There's a lot of major arcana coming out here in this one. Something here about the past. So, but this is like necessary for certain souls to grow in their particular way. What else, Spirit? What else? Somebody here could be sneaking around somebody's like profile or something here in order for this to be illuminated. And so they're sneaking around maybe after the lines got crossed here. And the lines getting crossed, I want to make this clear. I feel like it's in one person's heart. And I don't think they should be demonized for that. I think that whatever occurred was genuinely very confusing to be on the receiving end of. I think it was a betrayal. I think it was something was happening in secret, or somebody did choose like materialism in some kind of way over their soul partnership between these two people. And I don't know what it looked like. It looked like lust. It looked like temptation of some kind. And somebody went in for that. And that is what confused somebody in their heart here. And so I don't know which one of these people is sneaking around the other one, but I feel like somebody is, and it's possibly online. And so what they're seeing in that person's life is maybe confusing, because it could be that somebody went in for materialism and they're putting on a show that everything's great, you know, materially. I don't know. But it also could be that whoever was left behind really expanded in materialism, because like that hand of God came in, but materialism is in the focus or something. But I feel like it's hard to see on the surface like exactly what's going on here because of this original twist that like happened. Yeah, there's something here about like look, there's more finger pointing going on. So what do you want to say, Spirit? Or even that somebody here is like alone. So somebody here might not have a lot, but they're alone and actually peaceful and comfortable and fine. But it's like somebody's trying to judge based on like the fruits of materialism and materialism alone kind of a thing. It also could be that, yeah, somebody here is like watching somebody else start over. Yeah, there's new place, new, like change of pace, change of place energy. And somebody here feels like hurt by that. Because it feels here too like maybe somebody thought that they had somebody in a certain position where they couldn't transform, or they couldn't grow, or they couldn't, maybe they thought that they had successfully ruined their reputation. But there's change of pace, change of place energy where somebody left a certain place and a certain pace outside of somebody's web of lies, where they were like, something here was like controlled or manipulated. And so to give them a fair shot, they were transplanted is what I'm getting. Somebody here could be transplanted so that their real self could be reflected back to them. And that is maybe changing opinions, or a particular opinion from back wherever they came from, where somebody here had to leave. And I feel like they left with the clothes on their back. They didn't, like, somebody here was really controlling of what this person could have. And maybe somebody else is leaving that behind as well, because they're realizing that they can't win. There's a place here that I feel like, yeah, is really sticky. And it could even be that there's somebody here who's trying to make it to where people have to like only rely on them. And so people have to leave that place because somebody here has the levers of power or something. These are kind of confused messages that are coming through today. And I kind of felt that before we were starting, and I just want to sit with that here for a second, because I kind of felt like all those doors were kind of closed behind a little bit of like what realizations like do you need, in order to fully evolve. I kind of felt like a bit of an obstinate energy there. Let me just ask why. Okay, the Lovers and the Page of Pentacles. So that's telling me that there's somebody here's on a journey to making some kind of choice, maybe, and something here to do with union, and yoga means union. So it's like, what do you merge with, kind of a thing. And I wonder if I get it. So maybe for this pile, it's like, there's something about the doors that the choices here, and it feels like who to merge with, where maybe behind one door, I do feel like some kind of realization will come through in a certain way, but maybe it will not be revealed to you in a different way. That's kind of what I want to say here. There's a road to strength here with this pile. Okay, so I feel like I actually had to like reframe the way I was looking at this to kind of like get to any progress here. So let me just see like, so what is this like strength? How do we build this strength then? Okay, it's working through karmas to do with the 5th house. So to do with performance, to do with theater, to do with legacy, to do with romance, and to do with like children and stuff. Who you're partnering with. Okay, possibly understanding that romance and like the 5th house and the 7th house are not the same thing. Like romance and like the 5th house of partnership and actual equality are not the same thing. Yeah, because one, like you can jump into a romance and that can be great for what it is, and it might be a very freeing experience, but that's not the same thing as like the 7th house. And maybe one comes at the expense of the other sometimes. Yeah, there's like a devil energy here. I'm kind of getting that. Look, the Fool leads to the devil here. So there's certain karmas that have to be worked out through the 5th house, where all of this will make sense. Like what I'm trying to say here would like actually make sense of, the Lovers and the Devil card being confused. That's what it feels like for this group. And it feels like maybe that does have to do with past lives, because somebody's soulmate did something to them that blocked them off at the heart space towards that person. And then that started getting them very confused about, I think, the 5th house and the 7th house, romance versus partnership and things like that. And I don't know how it did that. It's just maybe the pain of it or like the fear of betrayal. And it's caused some kind of like blockage here. So there's some kind of like working through in order to take a leap of faith and actually overcome something. So it's like, for one way this could go is somebody taking a leap of faith into something that seems to progress them materially and in terms of status and reputation. But that's just the devil energy. That's the karmic. That's like a karmic bind here. And then working out the karmas of the 5th house via that situation of, this was a 5th house kind of a thing, but it's not the 7th house kind of thing. But the 7th house does imply contracts. So when something, moving in with something, somebody here who's like in some way a karmic to that 5th house, but then the moment that a contract gets signed going into that 7th house, all of a sudden it's different. They feel like restricted and bound and, something like that. Whereas there's a different way of taking some kind of leap of faith to do with the fifth house. And again, that doesn't necessarily have to do with romance. It very well could, but it could be taking a leap of faith towards legacy in a different direction, or towards performance in a different direction or something, taking some kind of leap of faith. But I feel like this is putting the work in. Taking a leap of faith towards putting the work in the Capricorn energy of like moving up through something is very consciously engaging with the karmas of the fifth house and like kind of learning that. And that is what is freeing up the intuition around this space to actually be trusted. Yes, this is like a confirmation. Somebody's intuition around love, fifth house and seventh house, love and like partnership is like all out of whack, but it's in somewhere in their past. And I think maybe it was in this lifetime, but it could even be like in a past lifetime. Somebody's heart space is like blocked up and confused because of what a genuine soulmate did to them that was fucked up. Like either their soulmate could have jumped in with a Capricorn kind of, not a Capricorn. I love Capricorns. Capricorn, hey, y'all are in my seventh house. I genuinely love Capricorns. You're in my sixth house and my seventh house. So like I'm around them a lot and I like them. And so I'm not saying that, but like when we look at that kind of negative, the devil energy that comes out in the Capricorn is I'm so obsessed with status and wealth and like climbing the ladders and everything that I forsake everything else. And it just looks shiny to me. And I think, well, because I would progress in the material world, that must be my path forward spiritually. And I think that there is any path that you can take in life eventually ends up being a spiritual path. It's just that there's harder ways of learning, and this will be a hard way of learning. And I do think it would get you closer to God, but it's through a lot of exertion because you're climbing that mountain. And the mountain, on top of the mountain, you are close to God because the air is thin up there and there's not a lot of people. So this is a situation where you do a lot of climbing and you might well climb the ladders of success and status, but you would be alone up at the top and hear God directly, but it would illuminate that this was the devil's path, like this was the devil's cup and that person. And that is you learning spiritual lessons, those karmas of the fifth house. What started as a romance, like it would illuminate, maybe it started under weird conditions at work, or it was very karmic or like something here. It would illuminate that. And so you would be learning your lessons. There's a different way though of like, I'm going to jump in and like actually do my work because it feels like there's some kind of work to be done here, like around romance things, sex, love, partnership. Like there's work to be done here to know what situations to jump into and like that are encouraged to jump into, and where that voice and that push is coming from and where it's not. And the cause of it really is this blockage in the heart space of, I think, like a deeply wounded nature and some like being betrayed by a genuine soulmate. And for some, I'm hearing father, like it could have been a father wound here of like father was a soulmate, but you feel like left or something here, especially if, well, I don't know, like, especially if you are a woman and then father becomes that relational model, but it could go the other way too. Like if you're a man and it's the mom, or like, there's some kind of like maybe wounding here of a soulmate. And that's like what's kind of illuminating it. And there is maybe, help that's come in to help you traverse. So this time period as well, this is the realization you need to evolve, right? So it's just, this is temporary. The Bardo, it's like you're crossing the river of death, right? So you're in a kind of liminal space. So this isn't the way that life usually is, because I think for some of you, you're potentially trying to make sense of like, well, why would God be doing this or something? This is karmas. This is a particular karma that you are working through where it's like very confusing. And that's why it keeps like kind of leading to but once you work through this karma is what I'm saying. And like, you can trust where your intuition is coming from more. So when your intuition is like, leap into it, and you do, and you leap into like very fulfilling work. I think in this case of a romance or of a relationship, like it's genuinely fulfilling to restrict yourself in love for the right person that has that seventh house energy, then life will look different. Like the entirety of life and the way that spirit flows through life will look different for you. It won't just look like you're being punished because you're going to understand the lesson. So it's kind of like, sometimes I see this in my mind, Forrest Gump, where he had the leg braces on and he was running away from that bully. And, not that there's too much metaphorically similar here, but it's like, say the bully was the karma and you felt bullied by like maybe your love choices, or like, I thought, that person was really sexy and I jumped in with them and then it ended up being this roller coaster. And keep in mind, like your soul does want to heal. So like you feeling a pull towards somebody in that devil energy, they still have the stuff that can lead to that spiritual awakening. It's just the harder way. So you may have jumped in, and it's still, your soul just wants to heal itself, So even if it's the hard way, your soul, like the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak kind of a thing. So it's not trying to betray you or anything. It's just chosen a different I don't know, path here, but it'll just look very different, and it'll all kind of click in and make sense where you're like, I was just like kind of always banging my head against the wall over there. But once I stopped doing that, then I realized that, like, you see what I'm saying? There's something here like that. Tell me more about, and it's about building inner strength as well. So there's some kind of maybe connection with inner strength. And so possibly for some of you, this could have been like you were called, you jumped in with somebody, and then there was like a lot of blame, on you. And you're like, I feel like that's my soulmate, and you jumped in and there's a lot of blame and maybe a lot of outside pushing like towards you. And this is your soul gaining its inner strength. And I'm not even necessarily getting like fight for the relationship, because maybe you do and maybe you don't. I feel like it could go either way, because for some of you, I feel like it's jumping into situations that aren't actually good for you. It's the devil's cup kind of a thing, but then you're kind of blamed on top of it. I think there's maybe working through some karmas of understanding. Maybe your soul did that to somebody in a past life, or it doesn't have to be so matchy like that. There could be some kind of karma there, but I think it's like allowing you to build your internal strength where you're like, I will make my own decisions. And that might be the pearl that you're taking away from that experience, not the person. It could be the person. It could be that's, I don't know. I don't like to confuse myself. This might be another little tip for you guys, but to me, I don't like being cheated on. It's terrible. And so I refuse to cheat on anybody else. It's never an option. I don't even like think about it in my mind. It's a no-go zone. And so I've made it very clear to God and to my spirit guides that my soulmate needed to come in in a way that suits my morals. And if they don't suit my morals, I'm just letting you know I'm not going in for it. So don't put somebody that you want to be my soulmate in front of me, because it's a no-go for me. And I will miss out on that person because I don't want to ever go against my morals. And I'm not going to sit there and be confused about like, well, I feel a really strong pull to this person, but I would have to cheat in order to get that person. It's a no-go for me. So don't put them there. And I remember having that talk with myself, like kind of early on, because I would hear people say things like, well, God put my soulmate in this really unsavory position. And I would always say, like, I don't think that's coming from that place. I don't doubt that you had a strong pull, but it's just something like I care so much about my morals, like, and because my morals are tied to the way that I feel about myself. But also, do you hear what I'm saying? That's inner strength. So this is a way that I've developed my inner strength. Somebody else might have to jump into something like that and be like, whoa. Like, I'm not a shit person. Okay. I made a mistake. I felt something and I'm fucked up a little, but like, I didn't, it's like somebody here that's still building inner strength where you kind of have to like have your own back, but you may have really pissed off like certain people that are like, what are you doing? That's immoral. Or for some, maybe it's jumping in with a person where things are above board, but they just, I don't know, maybe somebody's ex is like really connected in with like the socialites, and they just decided that whoever that person gets with afterwards, they're going to make their life a living hell. I don't know, but it feels like something about this fifth house karma is about building inner strength. And that inner strength is a key building block to getting your own intuition online, where you can understand where you go and like where to fit and where not to fit and how you're going to work with your own intuition. And it's okay for you to kind of muscle it the other, like that certain way, like I did, where it's like, I'm just letting you know that like I have the internal fortitude to like never cheat on somebody, because I find that behavior so painful and so abhorrent, and it affects so many people, especially if there's like families involved, and a lot of times there's friend groups involved and communities. And I love people. I'm a Gemini. I like being around people, and I like being around different kinds of people, and I love it when we can all get along. And when you throw a bomb like that into that, you hurt a lot of people and you make things weird and awkward. And I just never wanted to be that person, so regardless, I don't want to have to make a stand that way, but there's something here, like, even if you're different than that, and you're allowed to be different than that. Okay. I know I'm kind of a force around those things, but I also feel like this is kind of a teaching that I bring in, is your more devotion to spirit in a real way, and following your principles are key, spiritual practices that will set you free from your karmas. They will. I know that for a fact. But yeah, so I feel like it's building inner strength. That's somehow helping to follow the intuition, where it's a different level of intuition, where not only is your intuition going to be pulling you towards somebody that can break the spell, that can break the karmas, whether down the nice road or the bad road, right? It'll be more clear than that, where you're like, yeah, I don't doubt that, like, if you're attracted to somebody and they're in a relationship, or you're in a relationship and you're like, I could blow up both of our lives and hurt everybody involved, like, that's going to be like, oh, that's the tougher route. you know, like no doubt, like something that you have over there could potentially, like working through that would break my karmas, but there's a different way for me to build my inner strength, you know, if that makes sense. There's something like that. There's some kind of message here that maybe this is like knocking your socks off for somebody here. I feel like I can't shake the fact that there's somebody who's watching somebody else in like total anger. And maybe that person, they are coming across in this like more devil energy, very materialist kind of perspective or something, very pissed, like about the 8 of Wands energy. So it may have something to do with a trip or like traveling or some kind of fast moving energy, or some kind of message that came through. But I feel like maybe this person got where they were by moving things along very quickly, possibly like involving some kind of trip there. I don't know, sending some kind of message, and they like trying to block off something, like again, block off somebody's intuition. They wanted to like block communication between somebody and a soulmate. That's kind of what I'm getting. Maybe that's something that played out here. Again, I put the Lovers card back in somewhere, but so many major arcanas are coming out. But it's like the devil energy on one side and the Lovers energy on the other side. So if somebody's doing that, where it's like you're jumping in really quick, things are moving very fast, there's like a lot of communication, there's maybe a trip involved, all of that is very, very exciting. And that excitement makes you want to go down that path. But the excitement, keep in mind, and please hear me when I say this, is absolutely not coming from that person. Which is why like our dating rituals, our elders are like, you go to the soda shop or you go out to eat. You do the same thing over and over again so that context clues are the same. Because when you go to Dave and Buster's with one guy and you go on a roller coaster ride with another guy and then you just go to a sit down restaurant with another guy, those levels of excitement, the dopamine that's being released in your brain is not necessarily because of that guy or girl. You see what I'm saying? But if you start your relationship off, if you go at a steady pace, then it's likely that what you're seeing is actually coming from that person. So I feel like there's kind of a manipulator here who wanted to manipulate themselves to some kind of top spot that, whether that's with you or with somebody else. And they're thinking like the whirlwind, or maybe that's something that somebody did to you and you couldn't quite see that they wanted to use you for status or for some kind of money. It doesn't have to be necessarily monetary status, maybe just being with you. Maybe you're attractive, or maybe your family has like a family name that people go crazy for or something. And so they jumped in and things kind of moved very quickly, or I don't know. Yeah. So look, judgment in the world. So this Saturn and Pluto together, it's like something really bad happened. And there's always a wake energy to that to me, which is not necessarily like a wake is sometimes like a funeral, but like there's a wake energy to something bad happening. In the wake of that, there's an argument. Because it's like whatever the devil energy did to like, it feels rushed. You know, we move through the stages of a relationship really, really fast. And before you can really even think about it, you know, and keep in mind, like the stages of a relationship kind of are mapped out a bit, you know, that commitment stage is like 4 to 6 months for a reason, you know, that's the natural kind of like tempo. There's give in there, but like if you're going through something earnestly, like there's a little bit of give there. So in the wake of something here, there's an argument because something here was blown apart. And I just heard Bonaparte, like Napoleon Bonaparte. So there could be like a tyrant or somebody here that maybe has like a kind of little man syndrome or something. But there's like arguments here. And maybe that's also part of like the blockage off, you know, where it's like, well, things move so fast. This was an accident, this or that, you know. But it's because there is karmas to be worked out. I want to say specifically in the 5th house. But the 5th house to me also might be shorthand for just like, it could be in the Venus energy. It could be in the Mars energy. These things kind of go into this kind of like romance, you know? So there's karmas here to be worked out with Libra, love, balance, decisions, contracts, partnership. But there's also karmas to be worked out here with the lust energy, the body, actions, sexuality, moving very quickly, competition, selfishness. There's karmas to be worked out here. And those karmas essentially all go back to inner strength. And there's a couple of different ways to build that inner strength. One is the way that I just described. And by the way, this is the language of Venus, which is one of the spiritual teachers. Venus says, stick to your morals, cling to your morals. And that's like lifting weights every single day, right? I stick to my morals, and that builds that inner strength where the world will pull on you. By the way, that's kind of yang energy. The yin energy will pull on the yang energy, regardless of your gender. So you just get used to pulling it back. Pulling it back. And not even just for yourself, because when you're adherent to morals and virtues that you yourself are in alignment with, because I'm not saying to allow other people to pick your morals and your virtues for you. If you don't value honesty, I mean, I think you'll probably have some lessons about how valuable honesty is. The shoe will be on the other foot, where you can't navigate because people aren't honest with you. Everybody's telling you lies. So you're signing contracts every which way. So, but you see what I'm saying? If you like adhering to principles that especially you yourself hold dear is a way of building that inner strength. It's a path and a process in and of itself. It is a reward in and of itself. Not necessarily, yes, it will lead to better karmas, because it's the thing where it's like developing that inner strength and being able to pull, that's the kind of thing that gives you long-term success, the sustainable success, the kind of success where you've climbed a mountain here and maybe have even achieved something for yourself, but you also have the peace that comes within where you can look back and you can go, yeah, I'm really proud of the decisions I made, because now I can also see that that was the devil's cup over there. And I was really tempted by that back in the day, but I stuck to my principles and look where I am now. And also you've worked through a lot of karmas if that's you. That's like the realization here. Because for some of you, if there's somebody left in your past and that person did something, even if they were this soulmate maybe, but they did something that confused your heart or something, if you stuck to your principles, I still feel like you've worked through a lot of karmas in that 5th house. And maybe that's the realization, because some of you might be like, why am I still so like hooked on this person? Or like, and it's because your mind is catching up. Your worldview is catching up to what you've lived out in your actions already. And it's now sinking in and syncing up and integrating into your worldview and your spiritual perspective of, actually, now this is a thing you can pocket. This is a thing that you now know for navigating in the future. And you know it more clearly now than you did in the past, more consciously, that this is a spiritual tool of if I just stick to those morals and principles, I'm just burning motherfucking karma, and the stronger you have to resist. You see what I'm saying? But it also could be jumping in with the wrong person and having a lot of people blame you. And maybe that person even is a soulmate for some of you. And you're like, well, I know I could sense that person was my soulmate, but there's something you're really principally speaking is a no-go. And so again, you could be drawn to that person, but like, it's just how do you want to live your lessons? And then also it's, again, considering it's empathy and considering how that's going to affect other people, because you can burn certain karmas, but then create other karmas in the process. So it just seems like one of these paths, the path of Venus, I think, this principled path is the path where, yes, you burn your karmas and you don't create other karmas with other souls, where like jumping in this other way, I don't know. But it also could be for some of you that there wasn't anything that is wrong with your principles. Like it wasn't cheating and it's not dishonest, but somebody's still going to frame it that way. But you really did get with somebody like after they were fully divorced or something. They just happened to be with a karmic maybe from their past, or maybe this is what's like going on for them, where they were really tempted towards something. They thought that it was going to benefit them in this like kind of devil sort of way, but then it really didn't. And it like kind of tore them down. And then now you're jumping in with that person and it's like you're jumping into their heat, and there may be some kind of karmas that you're paying back, like in order to do that. If in fact this was like not a cheating situation, or, whatever you're being accused of is like actually false, genuinely false. Okay. So, I think I'm gonna leave that there. This is a bit like soapboxy, but, what's happening is this pile is, you're transiting something. It's not forever, but it might be really intense because it's a big karmic lesson, again, to do the 5th house and the 7th house. And you're learning how to turn that 5th house into the 7th house, like learning how to turn that 5th house of romance into a partnership. What kinds of romance, because you can have different kinds of romance. It's kind of fun, but it's not going to go anywhere. And as long as you know that and you're being upfront with that and everything, but it's like, how do you turn that? Where do I jump? And like, so there's bigger lessons here that's tied in with intuition, and it's tied in, and I can't stress this enough, with inner strength, which is also tied in with your legacy, and your career potentially, and like creative pursuits, and also like sun energy. It feels like that's perfecting sun energy. And as your karmas free up around this, as you kind of pay your karmic dues, as you work through that, it feels like your sun energy gets sharpened in a good way and like brighter and brighter and brighter. And that might not even be a big thing, even if you are, that might not. It could also be that this isn't a good thing. Like if somebody here is not great and they like to cheat, break up with your girlfriend. Yeah, because I'm bored. And people are going to be like, oh my God, that's who that person is. That sun energy is going to get brighter and brighter and brighter. So, okay, I'm going to leave that there for pile number 2. Yes. It's no surprise to encounter these people whom have this distorted morality in the dating app rampantly. I've heard that dating apps are kind of cesspools for negative behavior recently. Okay, so I'm just going to put this up here in case you are joining us. You have joined us at a wonderful time because we have just finished pile number 2 and we are getting ready to move on to pile number 3. Yes. Yep, years ago I reconnected with an ex and he took me on vacation. When it was time to do regular dates, he stalled. A dream told me he had a partner and kids. Background check confirmed. Ugh, my gosh. So it was trying to whirl you up in a romance to get what they wanted from a situation and not consider everybody else's needs. That's like, yeah, that's definitely the devil energy. Yes. Thank you, Beth. Okay. So, will compassion that space? Compassion. Oh, wow. People Delulu. I saw an old crush in my dream. Interesting. Forgot the 5th house is romance, but makes sense because the 6th is enemies, disease, obstacles, and debt. Don't go to the 7th without vetting the 6th. Very good advice. Yes. Break up with your girlfriend. Sorry. I hate that song is so catchy. Release us from these demons, Jesus. Yes. Okay, so if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's move to pile number 3, the vision. Okay, so,
Almost half selected this in the poll.
Oh, wow. Well, no pressure then. I'm being drawn towards a lot of different decks here with this. All right, let's see. So for pile number 3, Spirit, what realization do they need to have for their soul to evolve? What realization do they need to have to help them evolve? Oh, look, the nurse and the dream just came out. Somebody just mentioned the dream. Okay, prophecy, hint, guidance, oracle, reveal, symbolize. I dreamt Milady came and found me dead and breathed such life with kisses in my lips that I revived and was an emperor. The Bayou, thank you so much for the super chat. The nurse, kindness, loving, realistic. Thou will fall backward when thou hast more wit. Wilt thou not, Jule? Thou wilt fall backward when thou hast more wit. Eager, immediate action. Love's heralds should be thoughts, which 10 times faster glides than the sun's beams, driving back the shadows over luring hills. And reject. Firm rejection. Okay, so let's see here. Spirit, what to realize here? Okay, Ace of Wands and the 10 of Wands. This is the beginning and the end of the Wands suit. So the Wands always has to do with competition. So this is like mastering the Wands suit in some kind of way. So it's like mastering passion, lust, competition, anger. And I feel like there's something maybe that's been playing out, but in the world around you that's maybe very Wands, or you've had to be in like kind of a Wands energy. And then, but it's meant to lead to some kind of like realization in the mind or some kind of like enlightenment. So this is all leading to some kind of illumination here. And it could be that there was like a rejection that led to some kind of illumination that either you received or that you needed to receive. So it was a rejection to do with like, again, the competition, like really putting yourself out there or something, trying to prove yourself or like be the best. So there was a rejection here that either like pushed you inwards and made you have a realization, or you realized that there was competition. Laura, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you, Jess, for helping. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, so like you realized that there was competition, and that made you realize something else, that you had to take responsibility here and like kind of turn away from some kind of like mountain. There's also maybe a realization of like, this is like a little hill anyway, and maybe you don't want the little hill anyway. So like walking away from something here, but it's walking away out of some kind of wisdom, and it feels like something here that you had to engage with. You had to try for it, either to get like rejected or to reject something here and be like, well, actually that doesn't really resonate with me. This isn't, I thought this was a mountain and this is like a weird little hill. And then like you're kind of healing from that, and maybe even dreaming about a reunion with some kind of person from your past, or it even could be an old version of yourself where you were like more carefree. Maybe even remembering the good times of like the Four of Wands. I feel like this is part of you mastering the Wands suit anyways, because the Four of Wands, relatively speaking, is actually a very happy card in the Wands suit, where everything is like moving. It's a celebration, right? You know, of like your ships have come in, and like there's this kind of harvest energy and the celebration of it all, you know. And so I feel like you've gone through something here where, again, you either received a rejection, or there was something that you felt like you really, really had to compete for, and then you were rejected, or you were like, wait a second, I have to reject this, kind of come down from it. And then there's a clarity that I feel like is coming down after the fact that has something to do with this Four of Wands. And it's maybe like a feeling, and it feels like now it's coming from the heart space. It's a feeling, and what's like the EKGs that like on the heart, that's like reviving the heart. It's like maybe some kind of like electric shock here about maybe something to do with the past. Like, and it feels more, it could be a person, because I think for some of you, maybe there's been a realization here that there was a soulmate from your past. And it could even be like a friend that you're like, wait a second, that person was like actually the person that I want now. Like whatever you've learned from this experience, maybe you went in for somebody that was like super hot or whatever. And then you're like realizing that there was a friend that actually now you're like, that person was smoking. Like, you know, that person has all the things, but I just couldn't see it at the time because I was too busy kind of like trying to compete or whatever. It could be that, but I think it also could be, I think it's more of a feeling, like the feeling of, because I feel like being in the wand suit, there was a lot of competition or something, you know, and then the feelings of rejection, and there's that, but there's getting away from it. There's some kind of clarity after the fact of what something feels like. The wand's energy when it's healthy, like what you were kind of going after, was this like maybe a reunion energy, a celebration, kind of being in like the flow state. And maybe this is causing some kind of like mind, like maybe somebody doesn't want to see it or doesn't want to acknowledge it because the mind that can't process this. Or maybe this is something even from the past when you were confused, like when you were going after something, like fighting so hard and competing for something that didn't actually fit you, but it was just the hill, you know, that you felt you needed to conquer or whatever. Because it was the middleman. If I can conquer this hill, then I will have success. I will have self-esteem. All my problems are going to go away, whatever it is that like our minds tell us, you know. But it also could be now potentially you don't know what to do about it because maybe you went in a certain direction. This doesn't have to be romantically. This doesn't have to be like towards a partner. It could be you went after a job or like a career path that was supposed to be prestigious. So you moved to this certain, I don't know, place and it's highly competitive or whatever, but actually you really just wanted to be a park ranger, you know, back from where you were from because you loved the rolling hills or something like that. But it just, there was no prestige in that, you know? And so it's like the mind after the fact is like, well, how do I make this right? Or how do I kind of go about this? Yeah. And maybe it's even that you left somebody here with a broken heart. Because for some of you, I think there's like a dream or a realization about somebody here that was a friend in the past. Like that person was actually very loyal. They have the qualities of friendship, true friendship, like they're honest or they're loyal or something like that. And maybe they changed because this Six of Cups is Sun and Scorpio energy. So it's like somebody here has gone through a really hard time, and this could be you even, like went through a really hard time in the past, and it kind of obscured the Sun energy of like who you were, who they were. That kind of sounds like pile number 2. Only take that if it resonates a little bit, because it doesn't have to. But it's like that Sun energy was obscured, and it could have been because somebody here was going through a really hard time, and that could have been because there was like a very like nasty ending. I just heard so much for my happy ending. Somebody here's like changed and now is like standing on sovereign territory. So for some of you, I feel like this is you. You went through something here and now it feels like you're, I don't know. Yeah, there was like an unequal give and take is what I want to say, like with this competition energy. Maybe you were so focused on competing that you weren't focused on the give and take, because it feels like there was some kind of unequal give and take where you're like, well, I was so focused on competing and trying to win and trying to like get the top spot that I didn't really notice that this person or this company really wasn't giving to me at all. Like I wasn't actually being paid fairly. I didn't free up my mind or my energy to even look at that because I was so busy trying to achieve the thing that I was trying to achieve. You know, this was actually an unequitable situation. And it could, maybe for some of you, this crosses over sectors of your life where you were so focused trying to achieve in work that maybe there was a relationship here that was like overlooked. You didn't realize how, I just heard demons. So like maybe you were even fighting your own internal demons. For some of you, it's like you didn't even realize how this was affecting your partner and that the energies between the two of you had gotten so off kilter, so askew, where, maybe you had a soulmate and it wasn't, or maybe this was what your person did to you. Like, oh, I'm not even giving equally. The dynamics between me and my soulmate partner, because of whatever issues I'm having in my career, this is now off, and somebody here is giving way too much and like out of the, and it's not sustainable for that person. But it feels like somebody here has found like some kind of balance or some kind of stability. That could be you or that could be somebody else here. But it's leading to some kind of realization about like taking responsibility, turning around and coming down off the hill. And this is in some way a mastery of the wand's suit. It in some way, paradoxically, I feel like is a mastery of over the passion energies, the lust energies, lusting after power even, you know, or status or something, the competition energies. In a way, it's mastering over it, but it's not the end yet, because it's just mastering over it where it no longer has control over you. And part of its having control over you is blinding you, because it's just the wand's energies. It's like so involved, you know, things move so quickly. Again, there's always competition here. And so you've like always got to be, you know, like paying attention that you're not actually taking that like broad perspective. It's blocking that. And so I think some of you realize that. And it's either because some of you realize that there was competition for a job that you were told was yours or something, or even for, again, a person. And you thought, I thought we were doing the soulmate thing. I thought that, you know, we're focused on fairness and equal give and take. And also this is a mark of maturity. When you enter a relationship and you think about and worry about how much you're giving to the relationship rather than just what you're getting out of the relationship. And so when things start to get off balance and you kind of go, I'm not really giving an appropriate amount to this relationship, that is a mark of maturity. Whereas I feel like maybe somebody here tried to introduce an element of competition, not really realizing that doing that sets everything up wrong from the beginning, because now everybody's so blinded by the fire energy, which is, yeah, competition, but, and it's maybe lusty, but it's also very, there's fight in it. There's anger in it, you know, that was kind of like stirred up here. Now that's all somebody really can see, whether that's you or that's somebody else. And so this isn't the energy. This isn't the energy. It's misapplied. There's something that you've realized about this fire energy. It's either you realize you didn't want the thing that you wanted, and you would have realized that earlier if you weren't just maybe following some kind of script in society where it's like, well, that's the top of the hill and everybody wants to be at the top of the hill, when actually you really don't, in your heart of hearts, want to be at the top of the hill. Some of you want to be left alone in peace and solitude and silence, you know, like, so it's something like that. Or it's set everything up wrong. And I think this is wisdom. And I think that something here is like kind of balancing out, but it's not to throw out the baby with the bathwater with the fire energy, because I don't even think this is the end. Like something about like taking responsibility and walking away from the fire energy in whatever capacity. This is either like an actual place that you found yourself where it's like highly competitive. Maybe this is a job, whatever. Just walking away from that isn't the end, because I feel like maybe there is some kind of dream about, again, it's like the Four of Wands, of that happy fire energy, but it's like in a home, maybe. I don't know. It's like the energy in a place, like what something feels like. It's like you are connected with what something you want something to feel like, which is that Four of Wands energy. It's hard for me to describe it. It's like there is fire energy there. There is pep and enthusiasm and energy there, but it's not destructive and it's not blinding. It's just stable. It's like adding to some kind of like the stability in something, how amusing it is or how engaging it is. Like it adds to the foundation because it's applied well, but it's applied in balance. And that has to do with maybe like restricting certain things and It could even be that you or somebody else here has gone independent in some way, like to set themselves free. And this has been a really blessed action is what I'm hearing. I do this one meditation and it's like at the end of it, he says, okay, now bless yourself and bless your life. And I feel like somebody here is like, bless their life, or like, that's what it feels like. I think somebody here is putting down the competition. If I have to be the best and I have to be the most fought over, or I have to win the competition or whatever, to something like kind, loving, and realistic. You know what I want? Kind, loving, and realistic. And that's like the cornerstone. And that is moving from that fire energy over to the earth energy, which is the way that the zodiac goes. It goes fire, earth, air, water. Fire, earth, air, water. So it's like you started some kind of new chapter here, or new leg of something in the fire energy. Shit had to go wrong in some kind of way for you to understand fully the energies, the full gamut of the fire energies and what it is and who it is and how it's applied and everything. And it all probably happened like very quickly, but you've learned a lot in this process. And so it's kind of like there is a closing out of the exploration of the fire energy, because we had the ace and the 10. So you've covered the full, and it might have even been very quickly in this like succinct experience here, but it's led to a ripening and a wisdom, which means coming down from those energies, recognizing its limitation, which every energy is limited. There's no one energy that you can kind of single out as its own thing and say, this is the king energy. Because it's not really, it's like rock, paper, scissors. Everybody wants to say that rock is like the bad daddy that beats everything, but paper beats rock. Like it's a circular, everything kind of beats everything else. So it's just a matter of mastering these energies. And so I feel like somebody here has really mastered fire, or they're in the process of doing that, where they've taken responsibility for something, come away from or come down off of something here that they didn't really want anyway. Or it led to if you are the person who indulged in adding a competitive element to a love situation, competition can be a good thing. It can stimulate growth, like in the right amount and in the right place, but it doesn't belong in your relationship. And so if you were the person who added that energy where it didn't go, I think you're realizing that doing that clouded the vision, because it means that both you and your partner are just focused on the competition and trying to like outdo each other, trying to win. And also like not even taking a step back to be like, does this suit me? Am I happy? I just heard, am I happy? Do I like this even? Are you the person I would pick, or just like you sit at the top? So I just felt like I had to, in some kind of like arbitrary, superficial way, or society says that working in this kind of field is like the best. So I'm just going to achieve that. And that's supposed to lead to happiness, but it didn't. I just listened to a man, he's a physicist, and he actually put out a new book that I really want to read. But he said, he's this scientist, right? But he had a spiritual awakening in his kitchen, staring at his fridge, where he said, I'd achieved everything that they said that I was supposed to achieve in order to be happy. He was wealthy. He ran his own business, and he said he pretended to be happy a lot. He pretended to be enthusiastic because he ran a business and he wanted people to be happy and he wanted the environment to be well, but he was just miserable on the inside. And then he had a spiritual experience where he felt this loving energy, like just emanate from his heart. And he realized that that was him. And that like sparked this whole inquiry and scientific investigation into physics, like from a different way. And it was just really interesting. So I feel like, again, somebody here has had this experience where they're like, there's no love in this. Is this me? Like, I don't even really want this, Or like between you and your partner, it's like, even if it is a genuine soulmate that you actually want to be with, and that person is actually a friend to you and has the ability to be a genuine friend to you, and you add that competition in, it's going to ruin it. But then you're not going to see that person clearly because you're so focused on the competition and on the fiery energy, which is also, by the way, adding anger and resentment. And it's moving very, very quickly. So it could be something like that. But for some of you, this is a career thing. Yeah, and so this is, again, building inner strength. And there has to be a little strength in it, but then also a little softness and vulnerability. This is also the lesson that vulnerability is strength. And I feel like maybe somebody got themselves into an environment or a career or a relationship where vulnerability is not strength. They can't show their vulnerability to somebody because this entire relationship or this entire season of their life or whatever has been built on some kind of like competition. Somebody here might want to clear the air. I think somebody here could be either watching you and learning this, or you're watching somebody else or something where they're engaged with the fire energy in this Page of Wands kind of way, which is very cute and actually very innocent. And it's not like they're trying to light something entirely on fire. Like, this is a person, I'm kind of getting that they're like just alone in the desert, which the desert is, well, I don't know if it's a desert, but I went with desert. So it's where Rahu lives. It's the North Node energy. So they're watching somebody connect with their North Node, which is that Ace of Wands energy. And maybe this is you as well. Again, it's an idea. It's a dharmic kind of calling, but it's something that somebody genuinely enjoys. This is the first wand, I want to say, to building that Four of Wands. You know, so it's either somebody brings their wand and then three other people are going to bring their wands, or like this is just the first wand and then you're going to find another thing that you love and then another thing and then another thing is going to be this pillar and then there's something that you can kind of do with it, you know? And so trust the path is, I feel like, part of, like, this is the path. And even though it's not maybe all coming together and maybe it's not competitive yet, there's something here that's, because it comes from such a pure place, either in you or in somebody else, I feel like this is being illuminated now. This is the realization of it's something so sweet. It's something that somebody just genuinely loves to do. And this is the person who will twirl this baton all the time in their free time because they just love to do it and they're going to get really, really good at it. And then, before you know it, that's going to be, it feels like an accidental sort of an energy here. And that's going to turn over into that earth energy, which is one foot in front of the other. Somebody I feel like is watching somebody do this, and you don't even have to know this person. This could be like, I'm watching David Copperfield, you know, or like somebody here, you know, somebody just watching that and kind of learning, and maybe they're feeling insecure and I think it would be because of the happiness. Where they're like, I really applied all this competition energy and maybe I've got a routine or I've got something here, but do I have happiness? No. And like that's leading to some kind of tower, some kind of realization. Tower energy is that fire energy that's coming through too, you know, where it's, again, it's like, that's maybe, and for some it is very fast because we've got the Ace of Wands, the 10 of Wands, and the Tower card. That's speed. And it's all fire, that's speed. But it's covering the gamut of the Ace of Wands, the 10 of Wands, and fire energy. So it could be that some tower moment happened where somebody saw something or they saw something in somebody else and they were like, they looked at what that person had and they realized they feel kind of poor by comparison. You know, just because they have happiness. They're doing something that they love, but they're doing it because they love it or something here like that. I don't know. It feels like there's been some kind of like real realization here of like, why am I doing this? Or like, why am I over here? Yeah, and it could be that there's some kind of partnership here where there is some type of shared vision. Look, judgment. I feel like there's somebody here who is having like some type of judgment energy where they're like, maybe there's a partnership here that was born of this. And it doesn't have to be a romantic partnership. It could even be a business partnership. I wanted to succeed in the world, or I wanted this, or I wanted that. But it also has not led me to happiness because that's not where happiness resides. It's not the birthplace of happiness. If you want money, you can go get money. But if you want happiness, don't go after money necessarily. You need there's always a balance with things. There's always a balance with things. And when we say these kinds of statements, I'm not negating anything, right? You do have to have a certain amount of money. But you see what I'm saying? Chasing money and understanding that balance thing that I just said are two very different things. So there's maybe some kind of judgment energy here. Maybe on the self. Of like, why did I go after this person? Or it's kind of like a broken record here, or like, it's like maybe every time the vision starts, it like kind of stops because I'm seeing like that being a record groove at the bottom, but it doesn't go all the way around. So it's like the record, like maybe somebody here, like with the partnership or something, it's like, well, I think that we're on the same page, and then it like every single time because the partnership was built on the wrong things. And that's kind of being explored now. But this also could be, there's just some kind of deep learning, I want to say, about the 10 of Wands, because it doesn't even have to necessarily come from anything that's an outright mistake, because it feels very much a part of this person's path to, at some point in time, really explore the fire suit, the wand suit, and to master it. And it could happen even very quickly. So I think for some, it's like, okay, well, I got like sidetracked. I don't think you did. I think this was a genuine part. Like, it doesn't have to turn into a contract and a partnership. And maybe that leaks over to pile number 2, the romance and the 7th house. Like the 7th house and the 5th house are two very different things. You know, the 7th house is not ruled over by Mars energy or Uranus, like, you know, kind of a thing. So, but I just feel like somebody here was genuinely meant to explore the fire suit, that competition, the passion energy, that lustful, and it's a part of life, but it's just one part and it needs to go into some kind of context here. And it feels like, yeah, maybe the heat got turned up or something. And, now somebody's having to kind of say like, well, that wasn't for me. And it might feel like an ending and it might feel like a lot of judgment here, but I feel like you were always meant to learn this. However short of a time it took you or however long of a time it took you, you were meant to learn this in this lifetime. So this was a win. So please walk away from this as a win. Because you learned the limitations of fire, what it is, what it isn't, where it's appropriate to apply and where it's not. And that's a lot. And you've learned that. And now I feel like this is a group that's going to move more into some kind of, earth. I was going to say earthy energy. And that might feel like some kind of gamble or like, because the fire is what felt like it was drawing them in. And that could be like a very lustful energy or I have something to gain, But yeah, it's the Two of Cups. There's partnership that's at the center of this. Again, whether it is romantic or career. And for some of you in the fire energy, maybe you didn't want a partner in like career or something like that. Maybe you didn't want to work with somebody else. You just wanted to kind of, put yourself out there. But this is leading to some kind of partnership that's healthy and that doesn't have competition between these two people and that's much more stable. Somebody here is very defensive about that. Four of Wands again. Oh, look, like with the Empress energy. Maybe somebody's scared. Maybe this is you. Or this is somebody else. Like, I think somebody here views like the earthy. Because next they've got to explore earth is what I'm feeling like. They've explored fire and next they've got to explore earth. Or they're supposed to, and that's the way that their story is supposed to unfold. But somebody just thinks about earth energy as being a prison or being like there's a lot of rules and they can't do what they want to do. But there's a way, they don't think about the things that they have to gain and that there's certainly a reason that people indulge in the pentacles kinds of things and that it can lead to a lot of fun. And you need like some kind of earthy energy to place your wands, And that's the Four of Wands. So, okay, I get it. So it's also like the fire, you've explored the fire and it's like, well, how do I get to that Four of Wands? But it feels like that exploration of the fire suit, that's what's over. But the true knowledge is going to come later as somebody is exploring the earth suit and they're putting those wands up on the earth. And that's how you get to the Four of Wands. You got to explore the earth suit a little bit here and kind of get something underneath you, some kind of stability or structure or routine or something, Ace of Pentacles, and kind of guard it and protect it. And that's when you can set your fire things up. And then you have, I just heard the best of both worlds. That's when you've got stability and the fruits that come with that. But you also have a little spice and a little excitement. But it's stable and it's not corrosive. So moving into the earth suit at first feels like leaving the fire energy behind. But it's not. You're finding a place for their fire. Yeah. And something can really grow. Yeah. And there's like a self-satisfaction and it's breaking some kind of mold. And for some, I feel like this may be even family curse energy. There's some kind of family curse energy around that. Okay. So is there anything else? Yeah, this is hard for somebody's brain to understand, but I think that somebody here had to live through some, this fire energy. Yeah. Competition, like overcome competition. There's so much fire in this group, like the wands, but this is the path. Okay. So even though it's kind of messy and maybe some of you feel like you've ruined certain things, this is the path and it's meant to spark some kind of internal realization. And it has to do with the 10, something being over, something ending. And it has to maybe do with rejection. I need to reject this or I've been rejected. I need to reject this maybe because there's competition where there shouldn't be. And you know that that's going to blind you. Somebody here is like already kind of, so if there's two people here, it could be that one person already understands this about the fire suit and the other person doesn't. Yeah. Crossing the barrier, overcoming obstacles. With love's light wings, did I perch these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do that dares love attempt. So it's like love can do anything. Cooperation or something can do anything. These piles were all like very similar. I just want to see if I can't do the thing that I did with pile number 2. Because like I said, when I started this reading, it felt to me like all the doors were kind of closed. And I just want to see like, I just ask if I open this door. It says love at first sight. Twin flame mirror souls. Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs up on the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. romantic night, romantic entanglement, sexual encounter. Solitude. Calm down, listen to your inner voice, reduce anxiety because of the rejection here. So, dark deal. Yeah, I feel like there's some real temptation here, and it's in this like fire energy. And if you just stay in the fire energy and you don't add any earth to this, whether this is you or this is somebody that you were dealing with or something here, you don't add any earth to this, then it's not going to make sense to you. Somebody's just going to jump in some kind of like blood pumping fire kind of energy, and it's going to lead to a rejection or something. Now, I feel like if this is you and you were dealing with somebody like this, why this is coming through about what you should realize is that I think you are like this. Your soul is probably very fiery, and you probably saw, if you're further along here, you probably saw like we could have it all if you could just breathe, you know, and calm down and move towards this earthy thing. We can really have it all. You understood that because you've mastered fire. And that's funny because you, I think, somebody here is more calm. And they've moved into the earth, but what that means is they've mastered fire. It's kind of what I'm getting in this. That what that means is they've mastered fire. Whereas I feel like this other person is kind of known for being more fiery, but they're not healthy in their fire energy and they haven't mastered their fire energy. They want to go after like competition and everything. So they're just a little bit behind. So I feel like the two of you could have been soulmates in dealing with this. Like you were working to try to understand this kind of energy. There's something central about partnership to this group and to the karmas here. Who do you partner up with? Somebody in this fire energy? Because if you partner up with somebody just completely in that fire energy, there's a lot of blindness here and a lot of anger and a lot of it's very unstable, and you're not focused on the things that you should be focused on, and it's going to all kind of come crumbling down. So somebody's got to take responsibility for that, move towards like an earthy, and earth isn't the death of fire. It just has to change to kind of set it up. So for some of you, you're not necessarily wrong that you saw soulmate energy in somebody here, but they were just not as far along as you in regards of like the fire. And that's maybe why they chose to partner with somebody. And you could be looking at that being like, that's going to fall, and it will fall. And some of you are looking at it to fall because you need to prove that you know what you know, that you've learned about fire energy, what you've learned, and you have, and something here is going to fall, I feel. And fall might be relevant, like some kind of fall time energy. I feel like somebody could have jumped into a partnership in order to be in that fire energy, in order to gain, in order to compete. It wasn't built on love. It was, I want to compete with you or with the world or something here. And again, it doesn't have to be romantic partnership. It could be business partnership. It feels like there's a partnership built on all the wrong things. And there's like a judgment here. It's coming out. It's like being unearthed. And if you left whatever this was, whether this was a workplace or something, I feel like you felt judged. You felt rejected. You felt not enough here, but you weren't. There was like a tower, maybe on both sides. And somebody here's like maybe realizing what they put you through as well. And they're feeling like, you know, and I feel like they are being asked to reject this life that they built. It's going to fall apart anyways. And it's not happy. Just so you know, it's not happy. So you have to reject it and walk away. And that's you kind of receiving your justice of like, no, you were always good enough and you were actually like the perfect person. But this person they had their eye on something corrupt for corrupt reasons. And they don't want to think about it because they don't know how they got it wrong is kind of what I'm getting. So somebody here was like entirely consumed. This could be you also not being chosen for a position or like a promotion or something here. But yeah. Okay. So I think I'm going to leave that there. This is one of the readings where I'm not sure that this feels like cathartic, you know, for me, like reading it. But again, I do just want to say that I was kind of feeling the doors closed a bit here. I thought, and maybe there's a lesson here for me where it's like, I thought of this idea, like, isn't this like what we're all kind of trying to get to? But we can't really push things until we're ready. And like, we have to kind of work things out in a process. I don't know. Perhaps I need to think about how they got it wrong. Yeah. Interesting. Fire is fuel. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that was pile number 3. And I'm just going to take some drinks here of my water. And then we will move into our book, Codependent No More. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's great. Okay. Remember, you are worthy. That's nice. Okay. Work in progress. All right, I'm just resting my voice here for like 2 seconds. All right. Who is the physicist? What's the name of the book? Okay, I cannot remember those two things. The book has a red cover and black writing, and it was something like unsomethingable or like the physicist's name was I don't know. You know what? Actually, I think I sent that to Alex. Could you look that up, babe?
What is this?
The video that I sent you yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We'll try to get that. Okay. If you are ready, I am ready. Chapter 9, Undependence. That's with a U. She was being clever there. Undependence. What is it about me, she asked. Do I need a dead body lying in my bed in order to feel good about myself? Alice B., a codependent who has been married to 2 alcoholics. I'm real independent, as long as I'm in a relationship, announced a police officer who had been involved with several emotionally troubled men. My husband has been lying on the couch drunk and hasn't brought home a paycheck in 10 years, said another woman, the director of a large human resources organization. Who needs this? I must, she said, answering her own question. But why and for what? A woman who had recently joined Al-Anon called me one afternoon. This married woman worked part-time as a registered nurse and had assumed all the responsibility for raising her 2 children and took care of everything relating to the house, including repairs and finances. I want to separate from my husband, she said. I can't stand him and his abuse any longer. But please tell me, do you think I can take care of myself? The words vary, but the thought is the same. I'm unhappy living with this person, but I don't think I can live without them. I cannot for some reason find it within myself to face the stark truth that every human being must face or continue to run from, that of being ultimately and solely responsible for taking care of myself. I don't believe I can take care of myself. I'm not sure I want to be this alone. I need a person, any person, to buffer the shock of my solitary condition, no matter the cost. Colette Dowling wrote about this thought pattern in The Cinderella Complex. By the way, I got that book, The Cinderella Complex, and I think it's one of the books that I want to read after this one because she keeps mentioning it. So, okay, Penelope Rushinoff discussed it in Why Do I Think I Am Nothing Without a Man? I've said it many times. Whether codependents appear fragile and helpless or sturdy and powerful, most of us are frightened, needy, vulnerable children who are aching and desperate to be loved and cared for. This child in us believes we are unlovable and we will never find the comfort we are seeking. Sometimes this vulnerable child becomes too desperate. People have abandoned us, emotionally and physically. People have rejected us. People have abused us, let us down. People have never been there for us. They have not seen, heard, responded to our needs. We may come to believe that people will never be there for us. For many of us, even our faith is challenged. We've been there for so many people. Most of us want someone finally to be there for us. We need someone, anyone, to rescue us from the stark loneliness and alienation. We want some of life's good stuff, but all that's around us, inside us, is pain. We feel so helpless and uncertain. Others look so powerful and assured. We're convinced that the magic is in them. So we become dependent on them. We can become dependent on lovers, spouses, friends, parents, or our children. We become dependent on their approval. We become dependent on their presence. We become dependent on their need for us. We become dependent on their love, even though we will never receive their love because we believe we're unlovable. Nobody has ever loved us in the way that meets our needs. I'm not saying codependents are a peculiar duck because they want and need love and approval. Most people want to be in loving relationships. They want a special person in their lives. Most people want and need friends. Most people want the people in their lives to love and approve of them. These are natural healthy desires. A certain amount of emotional dependency is present in most relationships, including the healthiest ones. But many of us don't just want people, we need people. We may become driven, controlled by this need. Needing people too much can cause problems. Other people become the key to our happiness. I believe much of this centering our lives around other people goes hand in hand with the codependency and springs out of our emotional insecurity. I believe much of this incessant approval seeking also comes from insecurity. The magic is in others, not us, we believe. The good feelings are in them, not us. The less good stuff we find in ourselves, the more we seek it in others. They have it all. We have nothing. Our existence is not important. We have been abandoned and neglected so often that we also abandon ourselves. Needing people so much, yet believing we're unlovable and people will never be there for us, can become a deeply ingrained belief and source of inner conflict. Sometimes we think people aren't there for us when really they are. This dysfunctional belief may block our vision, preventing us from seeing the love that is there. Sometimes no human being could be there for us the way we need them to be, to absorb and care for us, and to make us feel good, complete, and safe. Many of us expect and need other people so much that we settle for far too little. We may become dependent on troubled people. We can become dependent on people we don't particularly like or love. Sometimes we need people so badly we settle for nearly anyone. We may need people who don't meet our needs. Again, we may find ourselves in situations where we need someone to be there for us, but the person we have chosen cannot or will not do that. We may even convince ourselves that we can't live without someone and will wither and die if that person isn't in our lives. If that person is troubled, we may tolerate abuse and insanity to keep them in our lives, to protect our source of emotional security. Our need becomes so great that we settle for too little. Our expectations drop below normal, below what we ought to expect from our relationships. Then we become trapped and stuck. The object of our obsession can sense this and may begin to feel suffocated. As Janet Geringer Waititz writes in the complete ACOA sourcebook, I don't know what that is. It's no longer Camelot. It is no longer even person to person. The distortion is bizarre. I will stay because he doesn't beat me. She doesn't run around. He hasn't lost his job. Imagine getting credit for the behaviors we ordinary mortals do as a matter of course. Even if the worst is true, even if he does beat you, even if she does run around, even if he's no longer working, even with all this, you will then say, but I love him or her. When I respond, tell me what is so lovable, there is no response. The answer doesn't come, but the power of being emotionally stuck is far greater than the power of reason. I'm not suggesting that all our intimate relationships are based on insecurities and dependencies. Certainly the power of love overrides common sense, and perhaps that's how it should be at times. By all means, if we love an alcoholic and want to stick with them, we should continue loving that person. But the driving force of emotional insecurity can also become far greater than the power of reason or love. Not being centered in ourselves and not feeling emotionally secure with ourselves may trap us. We may become afraid to terminate relationships that are dead and destructive. We may allow people to hurt us and abuse us, and that's never in our best interest. People who feel trapped look for escapes. Codependents who feel stuck in relationship may be planning an escape. Sometimes our escape route is a positive, healthy one. We begin taking steps to become undependent, financially and emotionally. Undependence is a term Penelope Rushinoff used to describe that desirable balance where we acknowledge and meet our healthy, natural needs for people and love, yet we don't become overly or harmfully dependent on them. We may go back to school, get a job, or set other goals that will bring freedom, and we usually begin setting those goals when we are sick enough of being trapped. Some codependents, however, plan destructive escapes. We may try to escape our prison by using alcohol or drugs. We may become workaholics. We may seek escape by becoming emotionally dependent on another person who is like the person we were attempting to escape. Another alcoholic, for example. Many codependents begin to contemplate suicide. For some, ending their lives appears to be the only way out of this terribly painful situation. Emotional dependency and feeling stuck can also cause problems in salvageable relationships. If we are in a relationship that is still good, we may be too insecure to detach and start taking care of ourselves. We may stifle ourselves or smother and drive away the other person. That much need becomes obvious to other people. It can be sensed, felt. Ultimately, too much dependency on a person can kill love. Relationships based on emotional insecurity and need, rather than on love, can become self-destructive. They don't work. Too much need smothers love. It drives people away. It attracts the wrong kind of people, and our real needs don't get met. Our real needs become greater, and so does our despair. We center our lives around this person, trying to protect our source of security and happiness. We forfeit our lives to do this, and we become angry at this person. We're being controlled by them. We're dependent on them. We ultimately become angry and resentful at what we're dependent on and controlled by because we have given our personal power and rights, our agency, away. Feeling desperate or dependent can expose us to other risks too. If we let the desperate part of us make our choices, we may unwittingly put ourselves in situations where we expose ourselves to STDs, abuse, and work. It is not safe to be that needy in intimate relationships. Sometimes we may play tricks on ourselves to disguise our dependency. Some of these tricks, according to Colette Dowling, are making someone more than they are. He's such a genius. That's why I stick with him. Making someone less than they are. Men are such babies. They can't take care of themselves. And the favorite trick of codependence, caretaking. Dowling demonstrates these characteristics in the Cinderella complex, where she cites the case history of Madeline, a woman who was extricating herself from a destructive relationship with Manny, her alcoholic husband. That is the last trick of the codependent personality, believing that you're responsible for taking care of the other one. Madeline had always felt more responsible for Manny's survival than her own. As long as she was concentrating on Manny, his passivity, his indecisiveness, his problems with alcohol, she focused all her energy on devising solutions for him or for them, and never had to look inside herself. It's why it has taken 22 years for Madeline to catch on to the fact that if things continued as they'd always been, she would end up shortchanged. She would end up never having lived a life. From the time she was 18 until 40, years when people are supposed to reap, grow, and experience the world, Madeline Boroff had been hanging on, pretending to herself that life was not what it was, that her husband would get his bearings before long, and that she would one day spring free to live her own inner life, peacefully and creatively. For 22 years, she had not been able to cope with what it would mean to face down the lie, and so without intending any harm, but too frightened to live authentically, she turned her back on truth. It may seem dramatic in its surface details, but in its fundamental dynamic, Madeline's story is not so unusual. The go-along quality she exhibited, the seeming inability to extricate herself or even think of extricating herself from an utterly draining relationship, these signs of helplessness are characteristic of women who are psychologically dependent. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we feel so uncertain and insecure that we can't go about the business of living our lives? Why, when we have proved we are so strong and capable by the sheer fact that many of us have endured and survived what we have, can't we believe in ourselves? Why, when we are experts at taking care of everybody around us, do we doubt our ability to take care of ourselves? What is it about us? Many of us have learned these things because when we were children, someone very important to us was unable to give us the love, approval, and emotional security we needed. So we've gone about our lives the best way we could, still looking vaguely or desperately for something we never got. Some of us are still beating our heads against the cement, trying to get this love from people who, like mom or dad, are unable to give us what we need. The cycle repeats itself until it's interrupted and stopped. It's called unfinished business. Maybe we've been taught not to trust ourselves. This happens when we have a feeling and we're told it's wrong or inappropriate, or when we confront a lie or an inconsistency, we're told we're crazy. We lose faith in that deep, important part of ourselves that feels appropriate feelings, senses truth, and has confidence in its ability to handle life situations. Pretty soon we may believe that what we are told about ourselves, that we are off, a tad crazy, not to be trusted. We look at the people around us, sometimes sick, troubled, out of control, and we think, they're okay, they must be, they told me so it must be me. There must be something fundamentally wrong with me. Some of us may have entered an adult relationship with our emotional security intact, only to discover that we were in a relationship with a troubled person. Nothing will destroy emotional security more quickly than loving someone who has a substance abuse problem or any other compulsive disorder. These diseases demand that we center our lives around them. Confusion, chaos, and despair reign. Even the healthy of us may begin to doubt ourselves after living with an addict. Needs go unmet. Love disappears. The need to become greater, and so does the self-doubt. Substance abuse creates emotionally insecure people. Substance abuse creates victims of us, addicts and non-addicts alike, and we doubt our ability to take care of ourselves. If we have decided for whatever reason that we can't take care of ourselves, I have good news. We aren't helpless. Being ourselves and being responsible for ourselves does not have to be painful and scary. We can handle whatever life brings our way. We don't have to be so dependent on the people around us. We can live without any particular human being. As one woman puts it, for years I kept telling myself I can't live without a man. I was wrong. I've had 4 husbands. They're all dead and I'm still living. No, okay. Knowing we can live without someone doesn't mean we have to live without that person, but it may free us to love and live in ways that work. But here's the rest of the news. There is no magic bullet, no shortcut to becoming instantly undependent. It's a process, but we can strive to become less dependent. Here are some ideas that may help. 1. Finish emotional business from your childhood as best you can. Grieve, get some perspective. Figure out how events from childhood are affecting, even driving what you're doing now. My dad left home when I was 2 years old. He had been drunk for those years, or so Mom said. I rarely saw him after he moved out. He visited a few times after the divorce, but there was no substance to the relationship. As I grew up, I called my dad from time to time. He had a new family and seemed to be stable. I'd tell him about important events in my life, high school graduation, marriage, the births of Nicole and Shane. Each time we'd talk for 5 minutes. He'd mention seeing me sometime, then hang up. I didn't feel particularly hurt or angry. I expected this from him. He'd never been there for me. He didn't participate in the relationship. There was nothing, including love, coming back from him. I thought I'd accepted my father's alcoholism and abandonment. The relationship had gone on this way for years, and so had my relationship with alcoholics. When I was going through my divorce, my father called. It was the first time he'd ever reached out to me. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. My dad asked how we were, a question he usually avoided. Just as I was wondering if I could tell him about the divorce, I'd always wanted to be comforted by my father. He began whining about how he'd been locked up in a psychiatric ward with no rights. It wasn't fair, and couldn't I do something to help him? I quickly wrapped up the conversation, hung up the phone, sat down on the floor, and bawled. I remember sitting on the floor screaming, You've never been there for me, never. And now I need you. I let myself need you just once and you weren't there for me. Instead, you wanted me to take care of you. When I quit crying, I felt strangely peaceful. I think it was the first time I ever let myself grieve or get angry at my father. Over the next few weeks, I began to understand, really understand. Of course he had never been there for me. He was an alcoholic. He had never been there for anyone, including himself. I also began to realize that while it looked like I had it all together on the surface, I felt deeply unlovable. By the way, this is so strange to me because this is a message that has been coming out in the readings a lot, like that somebody here feels unlovable. Somewhere hidden inside me, I'd maintained a fantasy that I had a loving father who was staying away from me, who was rejecting me because I wasn't good enough. Now I knew the truth. It wasn't me that was unlovable. It wasn't me that screwed up, although I know I had problems. It was him. The truth set me free. I'm not suggesting that all my historical problems were solved by one moment of awareness. I had more grieving to do. I still needed to deal with my codependent characteristics, but what happened helped me move forward and see things clearly. 2. Nurture and cherish that frightened child inside. The child may never completely disappear, no matter how self-sufficient you become. Stress may cause the child to cry out. Unprovoked, the child may come out and demand attention when you least expect it. I had a dream about this that illustrates the point. In my dream, a girl about 9 years old had been left alone, abandoned by her mother for several days and nights. Without supervision, the child ran around the neighborhood late at night. She didn't cause any serious problems. She seemed to be looking for something, trying to fill her empty hours. The child did not want to stay in her house alone when it got dark. The loneliness was too frightening. When the mother finally returned, the neighbors approached her and complained about the child running all over, unsupervised. The mother became angry and started yelling at the child for her misbehavior. I told you to stay in the house while I was gone. I told you not to cause problems, didn't I? The mother screamed. The child offered no retort, didn't even cry. She just stood there with downcast eyes and quietly said, I think I have a stomach ache. Don't pound on the vulnerable child when they don't want to stay in the dark all alone, when they become frightened. We don't have to let the child make our choices for us, but don't ignore the child either. Listen to the child. Let the child cry if needed. Comfort the child. Figure out what they need. Oh, that reminds me, when I was little, I was a latchkey kid. And so there was this one time I was too scared to be in the house until my mom got home. So I just took all of my stuffed animals and I went and sat in the carport and I sat with my back against the wall and I just surrounded myself with my stuffed animals, but I could run this way, I could run that way, or I could run that way. And I just sat there for like hours because I was just too scared. I don't know why. I don't even remember why I was scared, but it must have been some reason. Oh, thank you for the super chat. I think I missed one. Yes, Bill Angel. Thank you so much. Thank you for being awesome, Jess. My birthday's in 2 days here, so a little something for you on my special day. Thank you, Amy Jo. What a person to have a birthday and to give on that day. Thank you so much and happy birthday. Okay, so number 3, stop looking for happiness in other people. Our source of happiness and well-being is not inside others, it's inside us. Learn to center yourself in yourself. Stop focusing on other people. Settle down with and in yourself. Stop seeking so much approval and validation from others. We don't need the approval of everyone and anyone. We only need our approval. We have all the same sources for happiness and making choices inside of us that others do. Make a home for yourself within yourself. Find and develop your own internal supply of peace, well-being, and self-esteem. Relationships help, but they cannot be your source. Taking care of yourself is a huge job. Stop expecting other people to do it. 4, learn to depend on yourself. Maybe other people haven't been there for you, but you can start being there for you. Let's stop abandoning ourselves, our needs, our wants, our feelings, our lives, and everything that comprises us. Make a commitment to always be there for ourselves. We can trust ourselves. We can handle and cope with the events, problems, and feelings that life throws our way. We can trust our feelings and our judgments. We can solve our problems. We can learn to live with our unsolved problems too. We must trust the people we are learning to depend on, ourselves. 5, strive for independence. Begin examining the ways you're dependent on the people around you. Start taking care of yourself, whether you're in a relationship that you intend to continue or in a relationship you're trying to get out of. In the Cinderella Complex, see how she always mentions this book? We have to read it, right? In the Cinderella Complex, Colette Dowling suggests doing this with an attitude of courageous vulnerability. That means you feel scared, but you do it anyway. We can feel our feelings, talk about our fears, accept ourselves and our present conditions, and then get started on the journey towards independence. We can do it. We don't have to feel strong all the time to be independent. We can and probably still have feelings of fear, weakness, and even hopelessness. That's normal and healthy. Real power comes from feeling our feelings, not from ignoring them. Real strength comes from acknowledging our weaknesses, not from pretending to be strong all the time. Many of us have dark nights. Sometimes the way is foggy and slippery and we have no hope. All we can feel is fear. All we can see is the dark. I was driving one night in weather like this. I don't like driving, and I particularly don't like driving in bad weather. I was stiff and frightened at the wheel. I could barely see. The headlights were only illuminating a few feet of the road. I started to panic. Anything could happen. Then a calming thought entered my mind. The path was only lit for a few feet, but each time I progressed, those few feet, a new section was lit. It didn't matter that I couldn't see far ahead. If I relaxed, I could see as far as I needed for the moment. The situation wasn't ideal, but I could get through it if I stayed calm and worked with what was available. You can get through dark situations too. You can take care of yourself and trust yourself. Go as far as you can see, and by the time you get there, you'll be able to see farther. It's called taking things one day at a time. So the activity here is examine the characteristics listed on the next 2 pages for dependent, addicted, or healthy loving relationships. Use the information to grow in awareness. Maybe I'll read these. Okay, so this is like a chart here that they want you to go over. So general characteristics, and then it compares like the love, which is the open system, and addiction, which is the closed system. So I'll read all the love ones first. So in the love and the open system, offers room to grow, expand, desires for the other to grow, has separate interests, other friends, and maintains other meaningful relationships, encourages each other to expand, both partners secure in their own worth, displays trust, openness, preserves mutual integrity, is willing to risk and be real, allows room for the exploration of feelings in and out of relationship, is able to enjoy being alone. And then in the addicted closed system, it says, is dependent based on security and comfort, intense need of infatuation used as proof of love, may really be fear, insecurity, and loneliness in disguise, has total involvement, limited social life, neglects old friends and interests, is preoccupied with the other's behavior, dependent on the other's approval for personal identity and self-worth, displays jealousy and possessiveness, fears competition, and protects their supply, suspends one partner's needs for the other partner's needs, self-deprivation, searches for perfect invulnerability, eliminates possible risks, sees reassurance through repeated ritualized activity, is unable to endure separations, even in conflict, and hangs on even tighter, undergoes withdrawal, loss of appetite, restlessness, lethargy, disoriented agony. And then it says breakup characteristics in like the love open system, and then breakup characteristics in the addiction closed system. So in the love system, accepts breakups without a feeling of loss of self-adequacy and self-worth. Wants best for their partner, although apart, and can become friends. In the addiction closed system, it says feels inadequate, worthless after a breakup, often one-sided decision, has violent endings, often feels hate, and tries to inflict pain and manipulate to get a partner back. And then it says characteristics of a one-sided addiction. And there's nothing listed in the love and the open system. And then under addiction, it says denies, fantasizes, overestimates the other person's commitment, and then seeks solutions outside of the self by drugs, alcohol, a new lover, or a change of the situation. That is very interesting. So just evaluating your relationships, even if you're not in a relationship, like even old relationships, or if you find yourself stuck on something. Okay, let me just see how long chapter 10 is. Oh, it's not very long. Should we read it? I'm going to read it. Okay, so chapter 10, live your own life. It says, live and let live, 12-step program. If I make one point in this book, I hope it's this. The surest way to make ourselves crazy is to get involved in other people's business, and the quickest way to become sane and happy is to tend to our own affairs. I have discussed ideas pertaining to that concept. We've examined reactions typical of codependency. We've discussed ways of learning how to react differently using detachment, but after we've detached and taken our grip off of the people around us, each of us is left with ourselves. I remember the day I faced that truth. For a long time, I had blamed my unfortunate circumstances on other people. You are the reason I am the way I am, I screeched. Look at what you made me do with my minutes, my hours, my life. After I detached and took responsibility for myself, I wondered if maybe other people weren't the reason I hadn't been living my own life. Maybe they were just the excuse I'd needed. My destiny, my todays and tomorrows looked pretty grim. Living our lives may not be an exciting prospect to some of you either. Maybe we've been so wrapped up in other people that we've forgotten how to live and enjoy our own lives. Maybe we're in so much emotional distress, we think we have no life. all we are is in our pain. That's not true. We are more than our problems. We can be more than our problems. We will be more than our problems. Just because life has been this painful so far doesn't mean it has to keep hurting. Life doesn't have to hurt so much, and it won't if we begin to change. It may not all be roses from here on out, but it doesn't have to be all thorns either. We need to and can develop our own lives. Some people think a life with no future, no purpose, no great shakes, and no great breaks isn't worth living. That's not true either. I believe there are exciting, interesting things in store for each of us. I believe there's an enjoyable, worthwhile purpose besides taking care of other people and being an appendage to someone for each of us. I believe we tap into this attitude by taking care of ourselves. We begin to cooperate. We open to the goodness and richness available in us and once we find our path to well-being. Throughout this book, I've used the phrase taking care of ourselves. I've heard that phrase used and abused. I've heard people use it to control, impose upon, or force their wills on people. I dropped in uninvited with my kids and my cat. We're going to spend the week. I'm just taking care of myself. I've heard the phrase used manipulatively to justify persecuting and punishing people instead of dealing appropriately with angry feelings. I'm going to holler and scream at you all day because you didn't do what I wanted to do. Don't get mad at me. I'm just taking care of myself. I've heard people use these words to avoid responsibility. I know my son is up in his bedroom doing drugs, but that's his problem. I'm not going to worry. I'm going shopping, retail therapy, and I'm not going to worry about how I'll pay the bill either. I'm just taking care of myself. Those behaviors are not what I mean by taking care of ourselves. Self-care is an attitude towards ourselves and our lives that says, I am responsible for myself. I am responsible for leading my life. I am responsible for tending to my spiritual, emotional, physical, and financial well-being. I am responsible for identifying and meeting my needs. I am responsible for solving my problems or learning to live with those I cannot solve. I am responsible for my choices. I am responsible for what I give and receive. I am responsible for setting and achieving my goals. I am responsible for how much I enjoy life, for how much pleasure I find in daily activities. I am responsible for whom I love and how I choose to express this love. I am responsible for what I do to others and for what I allow others to do to me. I am responsible for my wants and desires. All of me, every aspect of my being is important. I count for something. I matter. My feelings can be trusted. My thinking is appropriate. I value my wants and needs. I do not deserve and will not tolerate abuse or constant mistreatment. I have rights, and it is my responsibility to assert these rights. That's making me think about like the Self Bill of Rights, which I used to have hanging on my wall, and I'm going to find that again. I can't remember where that's from. I probably still have it somewhere. Yeah, like the Self Bill of Rights, or like even creating your own Self Bill of Rights. Like I have the right to feel safe. I have the right to be myself, like, you know, whatever it is. Okay, so the decisions she's continuing on describing the attitude, right? The decisions I make and the way I conduct myself will reflect my high self-esteem. My decisions will take into account my responsibilities to myself. My decisions will also take into account my responsibilities to other people, my partner, my children, my relatives, my friends. I will examine and decide exactly what these responsibilities are as I make my decisions. I will also consider the rights of those around me, the right to live their lives as they see fit. I do not have the right to impose on others the right to take care of them. I do not have the right to impose on others' rights to take care of themselves, and they have no right to impose on my rights. Self-care is an attitude of mutual respect. It means learning to live our lives responsibly. It means allowing others to live their lives as they choose, as long as they don't interfere with our decision to live as we choose. Taking care of ourselves is not as selfish as some people assume it is, but neither is it as selfless as many believe. In the chapters that follow, we'll discuss some specific ways of taking care of ourselves: goal setting, dealing with feelings, working at a 12-step program, and more. I believe taking care of ourselves is an art, and this art involves one fundamental idea that is foreign to many: giving ourselves what we need. This may come as a shock to us and our family systems. Most people with codependency issues don't ask for what we need. Many of us don't know or haven't given much thought to what we want and need. Maybe we falsely believe that our needs aren't important and we shouldn't mention them. Some of us may have even thought that our needs are bad, wrong, or taboo, so we've learned to repress them and push them out of awareness. We never learned to identify what we need or listen to what we need because it didn't matter anyway. Our needs weren't going to get met. Some of us haven't learned how to get our needs met appropriately. Giving ourselves what we need isn't difficult. We can learn quickly. The formula is simple. In any given situation, detach and ask, what do I need to take care of myself? Then list to your higher self and respect what you hear. This insane business of punishing ourselves for what we think, feel, and want, this nonsense of not listening to who we are and what ourselves are struggling to tell us, must stop. It's a form of self-abandonment. We can be gentle and accept ourselves. We can be compassionate with ourselves. Then perhaps we may develop true compassion for others. Listen to what your precious self is telling you about what you need. Maybe we need to hurry up and get to an appointment. Maybe we need to slow down and take the day off work. Maybe we need to exercise or take a nap. We might need to be alone. We might want to be around people. We may need a job. We may need to work less. Maybe we need a hug, a kiss, or a back rub. Sometimes giving ourselves what we need means giving ourselves something fun. A treat, a manicure, a new pair of shoes, an evening at the theater, or a trip to the Bahamas. Sometimes giving ourselves what we need is work. We need to eliminate or develop a certain characteristics, work on a relationship, or tend to our responsibilities to other people or to ourselves. Giving ourselves what we need does not only mean giving presents to ourselves, it means doing what is necessary to live responsibly, not abide in an excessive, responsible, or irresponsible existence. Our needs are different and vary from moment to moment and day to day. Are you feeling the crazy anxiety that goes with codependency? Maybe you need to go to an Al-Anon meeting. Are your thoughts negative and despairing? Maybe you need to meditate. Are you worried about a physical problem? See a doctor. Are the kids going wild? Establish some ground rules around their behavior. Are people stomping on your rights? Set boundaries. Is your stomach churning with emotion? Detach, slow down, make amends, do an intervention, initiate a relationship, file for divorce, or wait until the path becomes clear. It's up to us. What do we think we need to do? Besides giving ourselves what we need, we also begin to ask people for what we need and want from them, because this is part of taking care of ourselves and being a responsible human being. Giving ourselves what we need means becoming our own counselors, confidants, spiritual advisors, partners, best friends, and caretakers in this exciting new venture we have undertaken, living our own lives. We base all our decisions on reality and make them in our best interests. We consider our responsibilities to other people because that is what responsible people do, but we also know we count. We try to eliminate shoulds from our decisions and learn to trust ourselves. If we listen to our higher selves, we will not be misled. Giving ourselves what we need and learning to live self-directed lives requires faith. We need enough faith to get on with our lives. We need to do at least a little something each day to move forward. As we learn how to care for and meet our own needs, we forgive ourselves when we make mistakes, and we congratulate ourselves when we do well. We also get comfortable doing some things poorly and some things with mediocrity, for that is a part of life too. We learn to laugh at ourselves and our humanity, but we don't laugh when we need to cry. We take ourselves seriously, but not too seriously. Ultimately, we may even discover this astounding truth. Few situations in life are ever improved by depriving ourselves of what we need. In fact, we may learn most situations are improved when we take care of ourselves and tend to our needs. I am learning to identify how to take care of myself. I know many people who have either learned or are learning this do too. All of us can. And the activity here is, as you go through the days ahead, stop and ask yourself what you need to do to take care of yourself. Do it as often as you need, but do it at least once daily. If you are going through a crisis, you may need to do it every hour. Then give yourself what you need. Number 2, what do you need from the people around you? At an appropriate time, sit down with them and discuss what you need from them. Cool. And then chapter 11 for next time is have a love affair with yourself. So, okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for showing up and spending your Friday with me. Tomorrow, for those of you that are on Patreon, we have a pre-recorded reading. It's the romance reading, and we voted on what are they hiding. So we'll have that tomorrow, and we sell candles, and the link is in the description box. And that's what I have for you guys. Thank you so much, and I will see you when I see ya. Bye, guys.